morning. Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Committee of Adjustment. Could we please ask everybody to please turn their cell phones off, or at least put them on the silent feature? Because we all have some interesting ringtones, and it can be a little disruptive, so we thank you for that. Today's hearing is being live streamed on YouTube as part of a pilot project. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for minor variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to create new lots. To ensure a fair and timely hearing, I will vet the agenda to determine which applications can be dealt with immediately and which applications require a more in-depth review. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda and ask if anyone other than the agent or the applicant is present in interest and wishes to address the committee. If there are people of interest, the matter will be held until all non-contested applications have been cleared from the agenda. If your item is held, we strongly advise you meet with the interested parties outside the hearing room in an effort to resolve your concerns or issues. If no person is present in interest, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if required. The committee may ask questions or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. When addressing the committee, please come forward to the podium, clearly state your name and address, and file a decision request form with the committee staff. Those forms are at the end of the horseshoe, and if you are speaking to the committee or you want a copy of the decision on the matter that you're speaking to, please fill out one of those forms and leave it with the staff. If you have a written submission that you read from, please hand it to the Deputy Secretary Treasurer when you are done. First, the applicant or agent will make a presentation to the committee of the application as submitted. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be allowed to speak. If there are several speakers sharing the same view, please select a spokesperson to present the group's opinion. We want to hear all your views, however, covering the same points will not advance your cause. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker at the end of their submission. When all speakers are finished, the applicant has an opportunity to rebut only the related issues that were raised. The matter will then be taken into committee for a decision. This will mark the end of the discussion. And please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. If you do not agree with the committee's decision that's made today, you may file an appeal. In most cases, appeals will be dealt with by the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or TLAB. For more information about the TLAB, you can visit their website or the Committee of Adjustment website. Appeal instructions will be included at the bottom of the committee's decision from today. In order to receive a copy of that decision, as I've mentioned, please fill out the decision request form. And please include your email address on that form, as if the matter does go to the TLAB, they send out their notifications and appeal updates by email. And please leave your completed forms with the Deputy Secretary Treasurer on my right or one of her staff. Okay, so before we begin, can we have confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'll move adoption of the minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Oman, seconded by Mr. Carlson. All in favor? Okay, so the minutes are adopted. Any declarations of interest in the first time slot?
No.
This time, okay. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, any files to be closed?
Through you, Madam Chair, there is an application to be closed. It was deferred at the August 1st, 2008 public hearing. It's for 64 Russet Avenue, application A0261/18 TEY. We've been attempting to get the application in order to be rescheduled, and we've not been able to do that. So we're asking that the committee close the file without refund.
Okay, thank you. Members?
Is there anyone here to speak?
Is there anyone here to speak to this application? 64 Russet Avenue.
Then, Madam Chair, based on the information from staff, I so move for a closure of the application.
And no refund of fees?
No refund of fees.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay. So that's a motion by Mr. Russell, seconded by Ms. Oman for a closure of the file, no refund of fees. All in favor? Do Do we have any deferral requests in this time slot? Deputy Secretary.
Again, through you, Madam Chair, item number 1 has to be deferred. The application was revised, and there was a revised zoning review, and I'm not sure the zoning review was filed with the C of A office, and so the variances on that review were not included in the notice of public hearing. So we need to defer it and reissue a correct notice.
Is there anyone here today to speak to 55 Old Forest Hill Road? Okay. So committee members?
Through you, Madam Chair, I would move deferral of the application, including recirculation fees, for a period of 3 to 6 months.
It's just 3 months.
Up to 3 months, okay, no more than 3 months.
I second it, Madam Chair.
So motion by Ms. Oman, seconded by Ms. Russell for deferral of the application. Mr. Russell, I'm sorry. Subject to recirculation fees. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, so that's deferred. So please note that the committee will not be entertaining extensive revisions to proposals at the hearing today. In this instance, your application will be deferred to ensure revisions are accurate and that all interested parties are informed of the changes. Are there any agents present today who are not prepared to proceed today with their application as submitted, or who are requesting that the hearing of their application be deferred? If yes, can you please raise your hand to identify yourself? Okay, none? Okay. Thank you. So we're now going to vet the agenda for the first time slot. So number 1, we've deferred. Number 2, 138 Montrose Avenue, agent or applicant? Anyone of interest? Thank you. Number 3, 252 Garden Avenue, agent or applicant? Anyone of interest? Number 4, 181 Withrow Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone of interest? Number 5, 35 Triller Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Thank you. Number 6, 98 FERN Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Thank you. Number 7, 101 Robert Street, agent or applicant? Anyone in interest? Okay. Number 8, 38 Gibson Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Okay. Number 9, 24 SORAUREN Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Number 10, 35 Chestnut Park, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Thank you. We suggest that you have a discussion outside, so we'll stand that matter down. Number 11, 182 Humberside Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Number 12, 33 Abbott Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Thank you. So we suggest you have a discussion outside, and that matter will be stood down. Number 13, 2 St. Thomas Street, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Number 14, 45 DUNLOE Road, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Number 15, 80 Gormley Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Number 16, 401 Indian Grove, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Number 17, 9 Conrad Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Number 18, 41 Spadina Road, agent or applicant? Anyone in interest? Thank you. We suggest that you have a discussion outside. That matter will be held down. Number 19, 129 Campbell Avenue, agent or applicant? 129 Campbell Avenue. Okay, so no one's here for that matter at the moment. Okay, so at the moment I'm sorry. 182 Humberside Avenue. Are you the agent or applicant or in opposition? Okay, so who's the agent for one?
Over there.
So if you guys could connect and have a discussion outside, please. Thank you. So in this time slot, yes, certainly.
Number 19.
There's no one here yet? Any opposition here yet? No.
No
No,
opposition.
no one here at the moment. Okay, so at the moment, we're holding down number 10, 35 Chestnut Park, 11182 Humberside Avenue, 1233 Abbott Avenue, 1841 to 45 Spadina Road, and at the moment, there is no one here for item 19129 Campbell. Okay, thank you. So we're going to start then with number 2, 138 Montrose Avenue. People come forward while that's happening. I'll let people know what's before the committee. The committee has before it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a staff report from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District, and form letters in support signed by owners and occupants of 79, 135, 140, and 141 Montrose Avenue. Could we have your name, sir, and address?
Madam Chair, Michael Flynn, representing the application as agent. My address is 90 Cordova Avenue, Toronto.
Thank you. Panel members, do we need a presentation? Yes. So we could have a...
You're aware that the planning report is recommending refusal of the application?
Yes, Madam, I am.
So could we have a presentation, please?
All right. First of all, Madam Chair, the most recent comments by Planning Department were only received last week. We actually have been working with the planner for months, since the date of the application, and we have previously made changes to the application in attempts to satisfy the planner. The most recent things that she's brought up last week, she's never mentioned before. And it was quite a debate about whether or not that was fair, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we have made further changes, and I have copies of revised plans and a zoning waiver here if the committee is prepared to accept them.
What changes are you proposing in variances before we make that determination? How many variances are impacted by the change?
Okay, so variance number 1.
How many of the variances applied for are requiring adjustment?
Number 1. Number 5 is being deleted. Number 7 is changed. And number 11 is changed.
Have you had a chance to advise the planning department of those changes that you're proposing?
Yes, we did yesterday.
And?
We have not had a response.
So what's the nature of the changes then you're proposing? So we consider whether...
The building was shortened.
Pardon?
The main building was shortened to create a 7.5 meter separation between the buildings, between the primary building and the laneway.
So which variances are you speaking to that you're changing?
I can give this to you. I have enough copies for everyone.
Well, I'd like you to verbally advise.
Oh, certainly, okay.
While we make a decision.
All right, so number 1, the ancillary building containing a laneway suite will be located 4.18 meters. It is now amended to 6.16 meters. In fact, it's 7.5, but the examiner is counting the face of the balcony on the second story as the front wall, or the rear wall of the main house. Consequently, on the ground, it meets the requirement. In the air, it doesn't.
So what variances do you still require for number 1 then?
A variance of 6 point.
6.16.
We're 6.16 meters.
Variance number 1?
Variance number 1.
Yes, as compared to 4.18.
But
Okay, Madam Chair, I would suggest a deferral would make more sense in this case because it seems like quite a few variances are being impacted here.
well, I think it would be nice also to receive comments from planning department with respect to...
Complex application, and this first change seems to make it compliant.
Yes.
So, I'm in favor of a deferral.
Any deferral would also require the
Yeah. Did you wish to say something, sir? We need your name and...
This is the owner.
So, I'm the owner of the property, so I would just like to say that, so the dates are well understood, we submitted the plan back in June 2018 of last year. We received a response in August of 2018. The planner, when she responded 10 days ago, or actually, sorry, 7 days ago, stated that the variances that we had mentioned were never in the plan, and we have email discussion that was not the case. So I'd just like to make that clarification that a deferral would be very detrimental to us financially of carrying the property through this entire development. We've been working on it for over 8 months.
I think one of our concerns, firstly, is that we are able to understand the distinctions. We do have, at this point of time, a planning report that suggests refusal of the application. Also, from a transparency perspective, this committee has to be ensured that the people that are within the radius of notice are aware of what actually the committee is considering. And if there are changes to the application that are different than what was circulated, the committee has to be certain that there would not be any change or people have an opportunity to comment.
So on that exact
So
point,
we have some concerns with respect to that.
so on that exact point, we do have letters of support for the plans as submitted, and the variances that we're making, or we're reducing them.
Plans as submitted are what the planning department is suggesting be refused.
So the neighborhood has no objection to the plans as submitted, and we have letters of support, and the changes have made only better the variances.
Based on the information they're providing us, we're not aware that there's the entire neighborhood is in support. The plan is that recommended refusal. We don't know that neighborhood have that information. I think basically what we can do is to ask the planning provider the necessary report and have it recirculated.
Well, I mean, the other option is to proceed with what we have before us.
We'd be fine to do that.
No, whatever. Yes, yeah.
So,
Committee members? So do you wish to proceed with the original application?
No, madam.
Okay.
well, then I really, with my first comment, then it should be deferred.
It's ultimately our decision to defer,
Yeah.
and the applicant has indicated, the agent has indicated that no longer wish to proceed as.
Okay, so based on, running through the changes that they would like to make, I feel that these are substantial and are going to potentially impact other variances. The agent does not want to proceed with what's before us, therefore I would recommend deferral of the application for 3 months, including recirculation fees.
I will second that. I would ask that your motion include a report, a final report from planning.
Yes, that we would like a final report from planning in a timely manner that incorporates comments on the revised application.
So that's a motion by Ms. Oman, seconded by Mr. Carlson for deferral of the application for a period of up to 3 months with recirculation fees, and also requiring a final report from planning on any revised application. All in favor? The application's deferred.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Item number 3, 252 Garden Avenue. You could please come forward, and while you're doing so, I'll let people know what we have before it. Committee has before it the following communications: copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 2 photographs of the rear deck, staff report from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District, received March 1st. Can I have your name, please? And
Good morning, Madam Chair and Committee. My name is Kyle Kadra. I'm the agent.
members of the committee, do you need a presentation, or would you like to
No.
proceed to questions?
I don't believe so either.
First, are you aware of the planning conditions
Um,
from the February 26th report?
my understanding is that they're okay with our application.
They are requesting 2 conditions. If you haven't seen them.
Oh, yes, I understand that, and we're okay with it. So we're okay with tying the application with the submitted drawings.
And the flagstone in the back, is that going to remain?
Yes,
The pavers, okay.
yeah.
Any other questions? Any members?
The zero landscaping is an existing condition.
It is.
Yep. In both front and back, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Why do you need a FSI of 1.3?
So the existing building is already exceeding the floor space index. All we're proposing is to enclose the front porch. So because of that, all of these variances are being generated. So I can let you know that the existing floor space index right now is 1.26. So it's already exceeding.
So we're in committee?
I move for approval for support subject to the planning commission.
Any other comments or seconder to the motion?
I'll second it.
So a motion by Mr. Russell, seconded by Ms. Oman, for approval of the application subject to the conditions in the staff report dated February 26th. All in favor? Your application's
Thank you very much.
Item number 4, 181 Withrow Avenue. The committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, staff report from the Director of Community Planning, and 3 form letters in support signed by the owners and occupants of 177 and 179 Withrow Avenue and 183 Withrow Avenue. Could we have your name and address, please, sir?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of committee. My name is David Smith. I'm here representing the homeowners at 181 Withrow Avenue. Before you is a pretty straightforward application. Please let me know if you have any questions. I am aware that planning is asked to tie the drawings to the decision, which is totally fine.
Okay. Committee members need a presentation or any questions?
No questions.
The height of the walls at 9.65, you're exceeding it by 2 meters.
Mhm.
Why should yours be?
Well, I mean, it's actually been previously approved in the neighborhood. I can provide committee decisions for approvals up to 10 meters for the sidewalls. It's really to provide a basic ceiling height of 8 foot. We also worked with planning to taper the ceiling height towards the rear, so it actually reduces to 7'6". We worked quite extensively with city planning to make sure that it sort of worked with other approvals in the neighborhood for similar additions.
I mean, if we're in committee, I'd also point to
Any other questions?
No other
Okay, so we're in committee.
yeah. If we're in committee, I point you to drawing A15. The wall height on the addition is no greater than the existing wall height.
Yeah.
It's an extension of the condition, but I can't call it an existing addition, but the structure isn't any.
I would add that there are other 3-story, addition structures in the neighborhood, and also both of the adjacent neighbors are in support, so that includes the other half of the semi.
And I think with it being tucked in at the back, it's really not having much of an impact.
And staff has staff report.
So I need a motion then, please.
In that case, I would move approval of the application as I believe it to meet floor tests, and that includes the condition outlined in the planning report dated February 28th.
So motion by Mr. Carlson, seconded by Mr. Russell for approval of the application, subject to the planning staff report dated February 28th. All in favor? Thank you. Your application's approved.
Thank you very much.
Item number 5, 35 Triller Avenue. The committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Correspondence in support from 78 Wilson Park Road, 2 form letters in support from 80 Wilson Park Road and 37 Triller Avenue. If we could have your name and address, sir, please.
Yes, good morning. My name is Don Aquila. Address is 29 Fraser Avenue. I'm here representing the owners of 35 Triller Avenue.
Committee members, do we need a presentation or would you like to proceed to questions?
Question.
Okay, thank you.
I just need to get justification of variance number 2 and variance number 3 about permitted height. You're going over 3.4 meters in variance number 2 and 2.95 meters in variance number 3. Why do you need community justification? Why you need those
So the owners would like to increase the floor space of the third floor, pushing the walls out and increasing the wall height to give a maximum or a ceiling height of 8 feet.
Are there other examples in the neighborhood?
There are precedents set, yes.
Do you have any addresses that you can
Yeah, I
give to the
do.
committee? Please and thank you.
29 Triller Avenue, they allowed for a maximum wall height of 11.12 meters. 22 Runnymede Road, 10.18 meters. 90 Fuller Avenue, 10.67 meters. 156 Westminster Avenue, 10.5 meters.
Thank you. Any other questions, committee members? Okay, so we're in committee.
Through you, Madam Chair, if there are no other comments from my colleagues, there, as stated by the applicant, as well as what I observed, there are examples of this type of addition with the raised roofs. So I feel what's being proposed fits within the context of the neighborhood, and I would move approval of the application as I feel it meets the forecast.
Okay, so motion by Ms. Oman, seconded by Mr. Russell for approval of the application. All in favor? Your application's approved.
Great, thank you.
Number 6, 98 FERN Avenue. The committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from Alan McCracken, agent, outlining the proposed design in 18 photographs showing the subject property and streetscape of the neighborhood, and 2 form letters in support from 96 FERN Avenue and 100 FERN Avenue. Could we have your name and address, please, sir?
My name is Alan McCracken, and I'm both the owner and the architect. Prepared the application.
Thank you.
So you stated it all, everything that's in the application there. I don't have too
Okay.
much to add.
Okay,
Just
so
open it up.
committee members, do we need a full presentation, or do you want proceed to questions? Questions? Okay, so any questions?
Mr. McCracken, variance number 2, the height of the main wall.
Yes.
It's on which side?
What is there presently?
Yes.
It's a flat roof condition. Yeah,
So that's what.
that's right. Yes, we're proposing to extend the existing flat roof and retain the essential character of the house.
Any other questions, panel members? Okay, having no further questions, we're in committee. Discussion or a motion?
Madam Chair, move for approval of the application for test. It's in agreement with the zoning bylaw and the State of the Act. It needs planning, so I move for approval.
Do I have a seconder? So I have a motion by Mr. Russell, seconded by Mr. Carlson for approval of the application. All in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you very much.
Item number 7, 101 Robert Street. The committee has before it a copy of a plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Correspondent from the Assistant Planner, Heritage Preservation Services. Staff reports from the Acting Supervisor, Tree Protection Plan Review, Urban Forestry, and the Program Manager, Heritage Preservation Services, City Planning. 11 form letters in support, signed by the owners or occupants of 95, 99, 105, 109, 111, 113, 117, 119, 146, 148, and 154 Robert Street, and a letter in opposition from the owner of 97 Robert Street.
Good morning. I'm Heather Doubledam from 142 Westmount Avenue. I'd like to make a short presentation, if it's okay with committee.
Certainly, proceed.
So I'm representing the clients who are a growing family of 5, and they're living in a small house on a narrow lot, as is many houses in the neighborhood. They're finding it difficult to move to buy another house in Toronto that's larger based on the current climate, so they're hoping to do a renovation in addition to their existing house. So we're requesting 3 variances. One is building depth, and we're requesting an additional 3.89 meters to give a bit more room on the ground and second floor. The proposed length of the house is not any longer than the adjacent house to the north, which received variances for that, and is in general in keeping with all the other houses on the street. We're also requesting a variance for the height of the exterior main wall. That's due to satisfying some of the requests from the Heritage Department. They wanted to make sure that it wasn't possible to see the 3rd floor addition from the street to preserve the facade of the existing house. And you can see that there's a diagram and a set of drawings there that shows that it's not possible to see the addition. So as a result, it just bumps up the back of the height of the main wall just a little bit higher than what's allowed by 0.2 meters in order to get a 2% slope on the roof, because we can't do a flat roof. And the last variance is a setback, small setback for the one-story garage. It's basically the existing garage is falling apart, so they want to rebuild the one-story garage with the same footprint in exactly the same place. So they're requesting the same setback from the property line at the rear of the property. It's also in line with the adjacent garages on each side. So as I mentioned, we've been in discussions with the Heritage Department, and they seem satisfied, other than a condition for them to review the drawings at the permit application stage, which obviously we're fine with. Our clients have tried to speak to all their neighbors about the proposal and have gotten a number of letters of support, as you've seen. We just actually read this morning the letter of objection from a neighbor down the street, which mentions issues of noise and dust, which are really outside of zoning concerns, but are noted and will be addressed during construction by endeavoring to do our very best to minimize that as much as possible during construction process, because it's a factor.
Aware of the condition, you're okay with the heritage condition?
Yes, yes.
And you know there's a forestry condition as
yes,
well?
yeah.
So you're okay with both of
Yes,
those?
yeah. And basically just that we feel that the application that we've made is in keeping with the official plan and the zoning and is in general conformance, and that the variances are minor.
Thank you. Any questions, committee members?
So the house on the north is 3 point, is the same length you're going for now?
It's longer than what we're proposing by about a meter. So it goes further back into the backyard.
103 is deeper.
On your second floor, will there be any privacy issues with the neighbors on the other side?
No, there's a wall with no windows on the south side facing so the adjacent neighbor. It's a semi-detached house. The other half of the semi is in support of the application and has signed a letter to that effect. They don't have any concerns that they've brought to our attention.
Any questions, members? Thank you. We're in committee. Discussion or motion?
Madam Chair, there's no significant change in the craft of the because of other
forestry condition as
And the
well?
forest conditions.
So that's your motion?
Yeah, that would be my
Okay.
motion.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. So we have a motion from Mr. Russell, seconded by Mr. Carlson, for approval of the application, subject to forestry condition number 2 and the condition in the heritage report. All in favor? Thank you. Your application's approved.
Thank you.
Item number 8, 38 GIBSON Avenue. The committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from Tom Sprague, the agent, supporting material from Tom Sprague, including 6 streetscape photographs, staff reports from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District, report from the Acting Supervisor, Tree Protection and Plan Review, and correspondence in opposition from the owners of 36 GIBSON Avenue. Could we please have your name, please?
Yes, my name is Tom Sprague. I am the agent on behalf of the owner. Just like to give a brief explanation because it's a bit of an unusual application. The property itself has a garage at the back that opens onto a laneway, and the back of the garage is located 9 feet from the back of the house. So there's 9 feet between the house and the garage, quite a small backyard space. What the owner would like to do is to build a deck on top of the existing garage and access it from the second floor. The reasons for the variance, and I did write a covering letter if you read it just to explain it, but just to reiterate, the reasons for the variance is now considered one building, and that drives all these variances. But the point to make here, there'll be no changes proposed to the house, no changes to the garage, that's the reason for the variances that occurred because of the connection to get to the access to this outside space. The variances were explained to the neighbor to the west, number 40. Unfortunately, the neighbor, and explained it, because when you look on paper, you're sort of confusing what's happening. And the neighbor to the east, unfortunately, does not live in Toronto, and so they didn't have the opportunity. I know there's a letter of concern or opposition. It just wasn't able to explain that really we're not touching any of the existing house or the garage. The location of where the proposed deck is on top of the garage is going to be, in my opinion, little impact on the neighbors on each side, because on the west is a full roof of a carport garage, and to the east is also a double car garage roof. So basically there's decks in between the roofs of the two adjacent properties on each side. And this is, as seen by the photos I sent through, very typical in this area, and probably because of the very nature of the tight back gardens or yards. Very typical, and there are photos I think I've sent through that were posted back on the 9th of February, I believe, showing other examples. So this is very, very typical. In fact, the house on the corner, number 46, Gibson, goes the full length exactly, and there's no back yard. So what's being proposed, in my opinion, is certainly very much in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. We've also talked quite a bit with the planning staff as well, and they are supportive of what's being proposed. They went out and did a site visit, actually had a look-see, and they're happy. They did put in a report that you would have on file, and they are supportive of what's being proposed, and they want to tie it into substantial in accordance with the plans, so that would be fine. And one recommendation I'd just like to adjust or at least discuss with you, and that's their recommendation number 1. The rooftop deck for the rear garage must be constructed and maintained with permeable vegetable screening, and that's a bit vague because around it we're committing to putting the privacy fences around it, and then we discussed with them putting in potted evergreens to make it like a roof garden up there. But I don't know quite what vegetative screening would be. We've already got the screening with the opaque glass, and we're committed to that. So just that one little section I think might be problematic. That's more than anything. The bottom line is we're going to put the opaque screening around the side, and I discussed with the planner we want to make some landscape plotted evergreens, make it year-round, but I'm not quite sure what that means. So I think it's problematic. The bottom line is we're going to make it private and close it in, so there'll be no overview. So I'm certainly agreeable to the conditions if that was clarified, I think. I can just see it being an issue down the road. In any case, my feeling is what's being proposed is is reasonable. It's certainly in keeping with the context of the surrounding neighborhood and the way they've dealt with this issue. So I feel it's very appropriate in my opinion.
Thank you. Any questions, committee members?
For the GIBSON, can you name some of the addresses in the neighborhood that have the garage?
There's garages on both sides. In fact, it's a carport to the side, but it's got a garage roof totally over it. So what we're proposing, it's between these structures, so it's not.
What about the landscaping? You're moving from percentage here.
Well, the reason that is now it's considered there's no landscaping because the back of the house, because it's connected, is actually right on the laneway, and it's the driveway coming out of the. So we're not. It's existing landscaping that's there now, not changing.
And your deck is on top, and it creates a rear yard setback.
Yes, because it's connected to the house now, so it's not the detached house. Yes. Yeah. It's just a unique situation of what's there. But the bottom line, we're not changing anything on the house or the garage. Just a garage on top, or a deck on top. I saw that, so that could be conditional too. We could deal with that. I guess there's one at the front.
So we're in committee now. Discussion or a motion?
Madam Chair, in looking at the area, there are a lot of additions, a lot of patios, gazebos. I don't feel that what's being proposed is out of context. It may look a little different, but it fills up space as is being filled up generally in that area. So I would be prepared to move approval of the application, including the conditions in the February 28th planning report. I would leave both conditions as is, but add to the satisfaction of community planning with respect to the first variance that Mr. Sprague referred to, just so that you can work something out with them along the way, and then also including forestry condition number 2.
I'll second it.
Okay, so motion by Ms. Oman, seconded by Mr. Carlson for approval of the application subject to the conditions in the planning report dated February 28th, with condition number 1 added to the satisfaction of community planning, along with forestry condition number 2. All in favor? Your application is approved subject to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 9, 24 SORAUREN Avenue. Committee has before a copy of a plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, correspondence in concern or interest from Alice I hope I pronounced that properly, at 20 SORAUREN Avenue, and a letter of opposition from Ellen Sacra at 38 SORAUREN Avenue. Can you please have your name and address?
I'm Craig Race, 140 Yonge Street is our office location. I'm the applicant.
You are the applicant?
Yes. Or the architect, sorry. I think my staff member is the applicant.
Yeah, Sarah Donaldson,
Yeah, I'm not Sarah.
clearly.
Okay, committee members, do we need a presentation or just to proceed to questions? Okay, proceed with questions.
Are you aware that the resident number 20 is looking to have a deferral to discuss this further? Do you have any comments on that?
Absolutely. We've been reviewing our design with her since last August, long before we submitted any applications. And I would like to note she has always been supportive of the design and the concept of the project. I think she's a little confused about the public process, but we've been very engaging with her and all the other neighbors. You'll note the 6, I think, letters of support from immediate neighbors. And my clients have broadly canvassed the neighborhood.
I don't recall seeing any letters of support in my package, to be
We
honest.
submitted them a few days ago. I can give you printed
I
copies.
don't think we have them.
For you, Madam Chair, my understanding is the letters of support were related to a different proposal.
How many copies would you like? Is one sufficient?
First of all, can you just confirm that those letters of support are in relation to the application that was circulated to the neighbors, or are those in support of a revised proposal?
They are for the application that was submitted.
Okay.
Okay, then maybe you could give them to the chair. One copy is fine.
I also have, a visual exhibit. All the blue properties are where the letters have come from. Sure. And the yellow properties, the green properties are properties who we've spoken to verbally, but they've not submitted letters. And the yellow, I believe, are neighbors we spoke to but didn't get an answer for. They also knocked on many other doors but didn't get answers.
So you're building or making your changes on the current footprint of the open storage structure that's there?
That's right. It's, I wouldn't call it an open storage structure. It's a fully enclosed brick building. It's existed for several decades as an artist studio and other auxiliary uses. I believe the changes Ms. Soy is referring to in her letter are related to a revision to the interior layout. The concept for the project has always remained consistent as a 4-bedroom dwelling unit, and it's only the second unit on the property. The main house is a single unit. That's correct. The shell of the building is remaining fully unaltered. We're not adding floor area, height, volume, anything. It's all interior changes.
And the use is changing?
Yes,
The intensity of the use is changing. It was an artist studio, right?
That's correct. I don't believe it had been designated as any specific use in the past. This is the first time it's been given a legal use by the zoning definition. We are not seeking a change of use variance, though. Yes, this is a secondary dwelling unit that is as of right. Sorry, the use is as of right. Yes, and that's actually, we would like to change that. We are providing 64% soft landscaping. We have another visual exhibit here where we're also changing the entire side driveway of the property to green space, but of course that's not included in the calculation. 64%.
On what basis? You just said something that's not included in the calculation.
The side driveway is not, but that's all going to be green space we're adding. It's just not included in the math. But for the purpose of the variance, we are seeking 64% of the rear yard area be soft landscaping.
And what is that in meters?
That is 71.
Sorry, this is related to what you're talking, because I'm going through this, what you circulated, which is, I don't want to use the word misleading, but it's a little different from the way the variances are presented.
Okay.
So on the first one, I'm a little confused because you're talking here, the current proposal increases the existing percentage of soft landscaping by nearly 25% to a total of 64%. And we have a variance for 27.9. So I don't really understand what you circulated to people,
Versus what the notice
which
says.
is why I think there was sort of the assumption that there were going to be some changes here. But I think it's the way that this was represented to the neighbors, which is not the way it's outlined here. So it comes across very different.
Okay,
So
yes.
is variance number 1 still for 27.9?
We are willing to change that to 64%.
So you are, so it is going to be 64, which is what this says.
Yes.
Are you revising that now?
We would like to, yes.
Okay, and there,
Chair, the applicants had an opportunity to provide.
so I,
Received an email early on in the process saying that they were proceeding with this proposal.
okay.
So, with regard again to the revision, does this not produce a parking variance?
Then,
No, the laneway suite bylaw exempts the property from parking, but we are providing one enclosed parking space in the existing structure. That's an existing garage that we're maintaining.
so you're proposing to drive across grass to get to the garage?
Open cell paving strips, yes.
For rear soft landscaping, that driveway from the calculation wouldn't be included, would it? Where's the, yeah, so it's not.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm not a zoning person, but.
It is on a waiver.
You won't have a driveway, you have a grass and jam over the grass.
Well, they're gonna have embedded.
Yeah, that's correct. The clients don't intend to use the garage on a regular basis, but we will be installing, you can sort of see two gray strips leading from SORAUREN Avenue to the laneway structure. Those will be two strips of open cell pavers that on day-to-day use allow for grass to grow in that space, but we can still drive a vehicle over it when needed.
When did you put this application into the hopper, so to speak? Like, when did you file it?
Last summer sometime, I'm not sure the exact date.
So when did you decide to make the change to the landscaping?
That was somewhat recently. We had been discussing the project with planning, and they stated to us they wanted more soft landscaping, so we agreed to change it. But we didn't get that note from them until after the public notice was circulated, so we had to call an audible today.
My understanding is you were in discussions with planning, so again, it's been in since October. I just don't understand why this is being done like now.
Well, we only had the opportunity when planning, when our discussions with planning concluded, and that was after the notice was circulated.
Okay, so in terms of the variance, you're requesting on variance number 1, the calculation is from the rear main wall. So you're saying from the rear main wall, you're increasing the soft landscaping from what's being requested in the variance as 27.9 to 64?
That's correct. We are seeking 64% soft landscaping. And that has been reviewed with the zoning examiner and planning.
I don't see from what you're adding.
No, but because it's more stringent than what the public notice depicted, we're only improving that variance.
Madam Chair, I would like to point out this is before us on a waiver as well.
No, I know, yes, noted on. So you're asking the committee to amend your request for variance number 1? And
Yes.
change it to 64%,
Yes, that's correct.
which is how many meters squared?
71.9 meters squared.
It just doesn't, I know that, but I just don't see how it's increased that much by what's being proposed.
The previous design, had a pergola over some of what we thought was soft landscaping. That was being subtracted. We've also appreciably reduced the amount of paving area in the rear yard. Especially the pergola and the permeable paving strips, which we've reduced, had a big impact on the variance.
Any other changes you're proposing?
No.
Now, on your variance number 2, your Why should we give 0.1, 0.1 meter?
This is an existing building. The alternative for this project would be to demolish the structure and build an as-of-right laneway suite. We could do that also as a 4-bedroom laneway suite. However, that would dramatically increase our carbon footprint, costs, neighbor construction impact. For all those reasons, we would much rather preserve the existing structure, which frankly has a lot of character and history in the neighborhood, than demolish it and build something new. But like I mentioned, we're not proposing any changes to the exterior of the structure, so we're maintaining it in the exact footprint and height that it currently is. This is all just interior renovations.
Any other questions, committee members?
Don't.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Russell? Okay, we're in committee. Discussion or motion?
I have. Now, the concerns I have are sort of. They're sort of related to the size of the structure and the intent of these laneway suites, but I mean, this is 4 units or 4 bedrooms. I don't know if that's really what was intended. There's no variance for that. But then the structure is much larger than anticipated as well.
Well, the structure already exists,
Yeah.
but what it's being used for is different.
Yeah.
But
But the proposed use is not a variance
No.
either.
But from an impact perspective, is the change in use a different impact?
With your indulgence, I would like to ask another question.
Okay, so we're out of committee?
Acknowledging this doesn't get directly to a variance, are you intending to rent these bedrooms individually?
I'm not sure what the exact use is. Certainly, targeting this to families is what's most appropriate for the neighborhood, which is why we're proceeding with a 4-bedroom design. I will also state an as-of-right design on the site could accommodate a 4-bedroom unit.
Thank you.
With no variances?
Correct.
There are no variances for bedrooms or?
No, but with the size of the structure, I meant.
And I'm just.
Back in committee? You finished your questions?
My question is finished.
Okay, back in committee then.
Careful look at the letter submitted by and where she spoke of the setback. The length of the maximum building width.
Building's already there, that's the challenge.
I know it's there, but I mean, it's not just stopping from
No, not.
taking it down and rebuilding.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot stopping us from
Or we're in committee right now? Sorry. Thank you.
I am somewhat taken aback by the fact that each of these bedrooms has a private bath. Like, there's a private shower for each of these bedrooms.
Does anybody have any other questions? Otherwise, I need comments. I need a motion.
My inclination would be to move refusal, as this does not fit within the purpose of the bylaw with regard to the size of the structure being used for a laneway residence. Looking at the proposal overall, I feel like this will be a more significant use of the property than the primary residence. But, I mean, I don't think the bylaw intends that a laneway house be this physically large.
Do I have a motion?
I would move refusal of the application, as I don't believe that the size of the structure reflects the intent of the bylaw or the official plan.
Second. Me.
So I have a motion by Mr. Carlson, seconded by Ms. Oman for refusal of the application. All in favor? All in favor? Your application's refused. Oh, as amended. I'm just going to check, is anyone here for 129 Campbell Avenue yet? Okay, thank you. Was anybody here in opposition to that application? That's arrived since I asked last time. Okay, fine, thank you. Okay. So, item number 10, 35 Chestnut Park. Oh, please, if you could come up. Oh, that's held, I'm sorry, my mistake. 13, number 13, 2 St. Thomas Street. Thanks, Mr. Carlson. 13, because 10, 11, and 12 were held. The committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from Joshua Butcher, agent, including site-specific bylaw 30, 2008, zoning bylaw 43886, and a previous decision affecting the subject property from the Committee of Adjustment, and another decision on a consent application affecting the subject property, email correspondence from the Engineering Technical Coordinator, Development Engineering and Construction Services, Toronto and East York District. Could we have your names, please?
Yep, my name's Joshua Butcher. I'm a planner with Bouse Fields, and we are the planning consultants for Bentel Kennedy for this recently completed 26-story mixed-use building at 2 to 8 St. Thomas.
Thank you. Committee members, do we need a presentation or just other questions? Any questions?
If we're not taking a presentation, so these proposed uses, are you seeking to do this speculatively, or do you have specific?
It's speculative right now. So right now, when the site-specific bylaw was passed for this property in 2008, it scoped down the list of uses that would normally be permitted in a CR zone to generally retail and service shop uses. And Bentel is struggling to lease this space due to the low pedestrian activity along here for retail uses. So they've had a lot of interest from doctor's offices, private gym, things like that. But due to the length of time it takes to get a hearing date, 6 months, and the uncertainty of the hearing process, most tenants aren't willing to sign a lease with the uncertainty that within 6 months they may not technically be permitted. So Bentel would like to request that these 6 additional uses be permitted to operate within this 330 square foot commercial unit, so that when a prospective tenant comes along, they can move forward with the lease agreement and the tenant has comfort that they are actually permitted.
Yeah, in the submission, you said that these 6 specific uses were permitted previously.
Yeah.
I know it's a fairly dense area
Yeah.
there. For example, like a club, are you talking like a nightclub?
No, so in bylaw, the weird world of bylaws, a
Right.
club would encompass a membership-based gym or fitness studio. A nightclub is an entertainment facility in the bylaw, and we did make sure that we talked to some of the residents in the area because we were concerned that the term club might cause some issues, but a club in 43886 is not a nightclub. It is a different defined use.
And is there parking, like underground, to accommodate these uses?
Yep. So there's a commercial parking lot below this building, and when we discussed these additional uses with planning compared to what is already permitted, their determination in being comfortable with this is that they didn't dramatically change the parking supply requirement.
Okay.
So you had this application on since 2008.
The original that was a decision. So originally, the site-specific bylaw contemplated a condo building and a hotel. We weren't involved in the application at the time, but there was a series of variances to permit the building that's now constructed, which is purpose-built rental with retail at grade.
You went to the OMB and the OMB allowed the change the permitted use you're looking for.
This
Building.
They love the building.
The previous owners of the property had rezoned the site. It did go to the board. My client purchased the property already rezoned.
So just with respect to uses, again, you quote bylaw 438.
Yeah.
Is this site covered by 569?
No.
It's not, okay.
No. So the site-specific bylaw amends 43886 to permit this building, yeah.
Thank you.
Are you aware of engineering?
They're okay.
They're okay.
Yeah, engineering and heritage have both reviewed this and said they're okay.
Any questions, committee members? So we're in committee? Discussion or motion, please?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think what's being proposed is appropriate for the area, particularly given the fact that these uses were permitted. They have the parking available to accommodate a tenant that would potentially move in down the road. So I feel that I would move approval of this application as I feel it meets the 4 tests and is appropriate for that area.
I raised my eyebrows at this, but I mean, the purpose of these mixed-use developments is not to sit empty. And I think I see what the intent was in restricting it, but I also think easing it now that it's been seen that there's challenges, it's more in the purpose of it to allow it to be used.
More reasonable.
Yeah. Sitting empty serves no one.
So is that a second?
Yes, it is.
So a motion by Ms. Oman, seconded by Mr. Carlson for approval of the application. All in favor? Application's approved. Thank you. Item number 14, 45 Dunloe Road. The committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevation. Decision numbers A64114 TEY, A470 16 TEY affecting the subject property. Correspondence from Maria Valentino, agent, received December 6th. Email correspondence from engineering technical coordinator, development engineering, engineering and construction services, Toronto and East York District. Staff report from the acting supervisor, tree protection and plan review, urban forestry. 5 form letters in support signed by owners and occupants of 120 Kilbury Road and 434647 Dunloe Road. Letter of interest or concern from Brian McGuire of the Forest Hill Homeowners Association. Good morning. Can we have your name, please, sir?
Good morning. Michael Goldberg. I'm the planning consultant for the applicants. I'll just bring a few things to the attention of committee. You see that this was originally, when the application was made, was was applied for under a waiver. And just so committee knows, as of yesterday, we received the zoning notice, and the zoning notice confirms the variances, so there's no change whatsoever. I will say, I'll just go through the variances very quickly. I will say on the floor space, and speaking to Mr. McGuire, this house presents, I know we're asking for 0.95. I think some elements of that are quite technical, because if you look at the front elevation as an example, you have a one-car garage and you have a few dormer windows in the roof. When you open that one-car garage, it's not a garage, it's a ramp down to a garage that leads in the backyard, totally underground, totally submersed. Under the normal course, you'd be able to deduct that garage area from GFA, and the 82 square meters that's on the third floor, which is about a third the size of the second floor, if you would deduct that, because the roof has to happen anyways, and those dormer windows could happen anyways with or without habitable space behind them. That's all I'm saying. So if you look at the way this presents with the dormer windows, there happens to be habitable space behind them, but they could be there anyways as faux dormer windows. And if you deduct that ramp, that would be the garage space, not the whole ramp, just the top part of the ramp that could be a garage. This gets reduced down to 0.79. I'm saying that part of that is quite technical in nature, 0.79. There are 0.95 in the neighborhood, but I'm going to say that this presents as a 0.79 house. In terms of the length and depth variances, committee, the variance goes to the very back of the garage, which extends underground beyond the house, almost to the rear lot line. The actual house that pops out of the ground is 17.3 meters long, corner to corner. It's not the 30 meters. So I'll just put up this. So there is, when I say corner to corner, that's for the second story section and the first story section. Let me just. There we go. So that two-story section and the bulk of the one-story section is 17.3 meters. There is a I believe 2.6 or 2.9 meter one-story breakfast addition, which is quite conventional in this neighborhood. And you could see how the ramp goes down, and then there's a three-car parking arrangement underneath the backyard. So I'm going to say that's really quite technical in nature. It's counted into the length and depth because it has foundation walls, but it's not seen by anyone. And in terms of the side yard setback, I will say that today, the north side yard setback is predominantly either 0.95 or 1.22, and the length of that dwelling is just shy of 17 meters along the north lot line, which is very similar to what we have there. You can see that all on the survey plan that we have. We have vetted this, as you've noted, Madam Chair, through the neighbors most materially affected, and they are supportive of the application. We've had discussions with planning. You note that there is no report. The reason is they are now supportive. We increased the side yard setbacks to the 1.2, which satisfied planning. They were originally 1.0 meters. As you know, in terms of the official plan test of respect and reinforce the existing physical character of the area, Forest Hill was predominantly built on a standard of 0.9 meter side yard setback, so we are somewhat larger than that. The one last thing I'm going to point out in terms of GFA. So you'll note DUNLOE is a very interesting street in Forest Hill because The depth of the subject lot, it's not a short lot, it's 36 meters or 120 feet. And you can see that's generally the depth of lots on the east side. And the depth of lots on the west side are 175 feet deep. So in terms of the character of the neighborhood and the character of the house that you're looking at, this is very much in keeping. The truth is, the number is as high, the GFA number is as high as it is, the FSI number is because it's a shorter lot, but it's not, doesn't have an unacceptably short backyard. It still has a shorter backyard that you would have on the west side, but it's got a compliant and an undulating anywhere from about 10 to 12 to 13 meter depth, depending on where you're measuring it from in the backyard, which is a compliant backyard, and we don't need any landscape open space. So in terms of the house fitting within the context, you could see Forest Hill, the lots behind are extremely big lots, and they're big mansions behind. On the opposite side of the street, they are deep lots, similar frontage, similar GFAs. So I really think that in terms of respect and reinforce the existing physical character of the neighborhood, if you walk around the lot, it's a good fit. If you look at the architecture, it's all grade related. There's a few steps up from the ground to the first floor. It's a one-car garage. It presents as a one-car garage, even though when you open that door, it ramps down to that basement garage. So, and no one is going to see that garage. It's going to be behind the landscape open space or underneath the landscape open space that is in the backyard. So members of committee, I'm satisfied as a planner that first of all, there's not a lot of variances. There's 4 in total. All of these, whether they're individually or collectively, satisfy all 4 tests of Section 45(1) of the Planning Act.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Goldberg, variance number 1, so you spoke about the 0.79 times instead of 0.95. What
Yeah.
are you looking for?
I'm sorry?
What are you looking for?
Oh, I'm looking for the 0.95 because technically you have to, you can't make those deductions that I was speaking about. The deductions I spoke about were practical or technical inclusions that you have to, the way the bylaw prescribes it, but in a practical sense. That third floor, which is a very partial third floor in the roof with dormers, you could have those dormers which could be just decorative without habitable space in the identical roof, because we're not asking for height, we're not asking for main building wall height. And the reason I mentioned the ramp, and I'm not mentioning the whole ramp, just the front of the ramp, which would otherwise be a garage, it's not, you can't, the prescriptions of the bylaw don't allow you to deduct them, sir, because they're a ramp, they're not a garage. But if they were a garage, they'd be deducted.
But you have a garage in the back which comes from a negative slope.
And the negative slope only starts once you're inside the house.
There's nothing from outside.
Nothing outside.
We don't, in our package, have the plans from 2016. Can you compare it all to that proposal?
The plan, I don't have those with me.
You don't have any, there was an application in 2016 for a new house on this site?
I did not bring that with me, I apologize.
Just to compare to the 2016, you told us that the depth is 17.3. What is the, without the basement part, what would be the length? I may have missed it. Did you?
It's about the same.
It's about the same?
Yeah, it's slightly less.
Okay.
Slightly less.
So
did the...
You don't know if the, again, it's probably not your application 2016. I'm assuming it did not include a basement component
It didn't,
calculation?
No. Right.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions? Okay. So we're in committee?
I mean, I know the area well. I mean, the houses are quite large, and I think the design certainly fits within the area. In comparison, the approval committee gave in 2016, this is fairly comparable to it. They were granted 0.838 times, and the length and depth actually would have been more without, because it didn't include that basement wall. And there were a lot more variances in that particular application. So looking at this one, I think it's actually, in terms of more variances, it's certain, or less variances, it's certainly a better proposal. And I think, again, the house as a whole is a good fit in the area. So I'd
add to that I sometimes get leery of these applications that have large numbers, and then we're told, but it's because of this or that technicality. In this case of the garage, substantially reduces the impact of what we'd have with a larger conventional garage.
Yeah, and again,
This is an improvement over something that would read.
and the design is very sensitive to the neighborhood too.
With respect to that, the comments from the applicant with respect to the length and the depth are mainly attributable to the underground garage. Although we don't have a report from planning here, just to ensure that if the committee were to approve it, that be clear, that the length and depth are not for the structure.
I agree, but I think the safest would be substantially in accordance.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that we would, that would be maybe prudent if the committee were inclined to grant approval, that there be some reference so that it can't be, there couldn't be any misunderstanding with respect to the intent of the variance.
Yeah, the question then is just which plans to tie to. I'm somewhat inclined to suggest A00A.
A008?
A.
A00A.
Alpha 00 alpha.
Oh, the little a.
Yes. Or maybe 00B.
How about A and B? Just to be safe.
Oh, how about the whole A00 series? A, B, and C.
How about all plans to be?
That then ties into.
Okay.
You have to do 00. I do all the zeros because it can.
00, A, B, and C would seem to cover it. Would seem to cover the concerns.
So no other discussion? Do we need a motion?
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, for all the reasons stated, I would move approval of the application, including forestry conditions 2 and 3, and tying it to plans 00, A, B, and C. A00, A, B, and C.
A00, B00, C.
Yes.
That's it.
Do I have a seconder?
I will second that.
Okay, thank you. So a motion by Ms. Oman, seconded by Mr. Carlson for approval of the application subject to forestry condition 2 and 3 and subject to drawings A00A, A00B, and A00C. All in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you, members of the committee.
Thank you. Item number 15, 80 Gormley. If you could please come forward. Copy of plan of survey, site plans, floor plans, and elevations. Staff reports from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District, Acting Supervisor, Tree Protection and Plan Review, and correspondence in support from Robert Metcalf and Kathleen Metcalf at 84 Gormley Avenue. Good morning. Could we have your name, please, sir?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Murat Özgür,
Okay.
and I am the designer and the applicant of 80 Gormley Avenue.
Okay. Members, do we need a presentation, or would you like to proceed to questions? I think we'll go to
Are you aware of the planning report?
Yes, we are okay with everything,
Okay.
and as the staff report. Again, variance number 1, we are omitting.
Okay, so you're making the revision, so you're gonna
Yes.
remove number 1?
Yes, exactly like the staff report.
Okay,
Number 2 stays same.
okay,
Number 3, variance number 3, we are doing the improvement from 5.9 meters to 6.5
okay,
as the recommendation. And again, number 4, about the soft landscaping, we are improving it to 63%, so it's 20.2 square meters from 54.8%, which is 15.8 square meters.
63%, what's the?
63 is 20.2 square meters, sir. 20.2, yes.
Okay.
And we did this, we revised the site plan for the driveway with the permeable interlocking driveway.
yeah, 20.2, yeah, he did.
Yes.
Yeah, 63% to 20.2.
Yes, improvements.
Okay, and those are the plans that attached to the planning report, right?
Yes, I sent them to the planning.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No.
Madam Chair, I'm satisfied
Okay, so we're in committee then? Okay, thank you.
I'm satisfied that the reviewed application presented by the applicant, moving variance number 1,
Forestry.
Forestry is asking for a deposit for the
Yeah,
new tree
condition number 3.
plantation. Yes.
Sorry. No, we barely included.
I heard it. Was it included?
Did you include the permeable, number 4, condition?
The forestry condition.
No, there's a 4th condition in the planning report
Including that, yeah.
for the permeable materials on the driveway.
I heard the motion as application as amended with planning condition in its entirety and forestry.
Okay, but if it's amended, you
It's a
don't
little,
need.
it duplicates itself a little bit, but
Yeah,
that's
okay.
the
Okay.
safest way.
So do we have a seconder?
I will.
Okay, motion by Mr. Russell, seconded by Mr. Carlson for approval of the application as amended or in accordance with the planning staff report dated February 28th, including forestry condition number 3. All in favor? Your application as amended is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 16, 401 Indian Grove. If you please come forward. The committee has before a copy of a plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, planning rationale from Jeffrey Moot, agent, and a staff report from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District. Thank you. Your name, please, sir.
Thank you. Jeffrey Moot, Principal Moot Architect, agent here today on behalf of the owners, 401 Indian Grove.
Thank you. Members, do you need a presentation or do you wish to proceed to questions? Okay, we'll proceed to questions.
Are you aware of the planning report?
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreement, yes.
So I just one question. It would appear from what's being proposed that the structure now will almost cover the full rear yard with the mudroom is sort of a connecting piece.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct. It's a unique corner condition, and the reason for posting the photo there was just to begin to try to explain. So that's Humberside elevation, and so that's officially a side elevation. And so the buildings, when read from Humberside, it's not so much a front to back condition necessarily. So it's and so trying to keep within the existing massing. It is a small connector piece there, identified by that small orange circle, and then If we shift over to the blow-up photo to the right, existing hardscaping, precast concrete, is where this infill portion will be located.
Thank you.
So because the first variance number 1 is an existing condition.
Correct. As well as the second. Yeah.
What's your current FSI?
1.35, so it does jump off the page, the 1.45. So it's a 12.5 meters squared is the net new building area being proposed.
Is that FSI represented anywhere else in the neighborhood?
There are comparables in the neighborhood. I don't have specific addresses with me at this time. To be clear, it is the existing 1.35, proposed 1.45. Yeah.
Any other questions, committee members?
Acknowledging variance number 4 is large, it is a small increase, and I don't have any difficulties with what this will actually result in.
I would agree, it's a corner lot. It's minimal, there's minimal impact in terms of what they're proposing. There are larger, structures in and around that whole block there. So I think that what we have before us is reasonable.
So
I would move approval of the application as I believe to be minor in nature and otherwise meet the 4 tests.
Including the planning condition?
Including the planning condition from the report dated February 28th.
Seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, so a motion by Mr. Carlson, seconded by Ms. Omen for approval of the application subject to the planning, the condition in the planning staff report. All in favor? Your application's approved, subject.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 17, 9 Concord Avenue. Come forward. The committee has before it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Cover letter from Gianpiero Pugliese, the agent, including a site plan, 3D zoning envelope, 2 renderings of front and rear elevations, and 3 photographs of front elevations. A 17 signature petition in support, signed by owners or occupants of 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 16, and 17 Concord Avenue, 16 Hillcrest Drive, and 502 Christie Street. Could we have your name and address, sir?
Good morning. My name is Gianpiero Pugliese, Audex Architecture, 160 Pears Avenue. I'm the architect and agent for the owner.
Thank you. Members, do we need a presentation, or would you like to proceed to questions? Questions?
I wanted to speak to this new document that is presented to the company.
Okay, sir, please proceed.
Oh, the new document? So basically, we submitted this a few days ago. It's basically just a supplementary diagrams to help illustrate what the variances are. And the reason I gave you a hard copy is because I find that at 11 by 17 format, it's a little bit easier to read than what you may have.
So there's no changes?
There's no changes. This is exactly what we submitted that's on file. So I'd be happy to speak to any of the variances specifically, but we tried to make an argument in this document. I'm not sure if you had a chance to read it, but I'd be happy to go through some of the high-level points.
The floor space index, it includes the attic space, is that correct?
It's a 3rd floor. It's not designated as an attic per se, but yes, it does.
Okay.
So one thing to point out, I think that's worth noting, just very high level. So our client has the intention of building a new single-family dwelling on a street that is very kind of rich in character in terms of its consistency of building facades. So what we actually did was looked at the existing building. We actually had a 3D scan done. So if you look at sheet in the document I just gave you, sheet SK 105, you'll see that is a an image directly from a 3D scan of the existing context. So our client wanted to do a contemporary house, but we advised them that to work with the context would be a better approach in terms of creating something that fits in with the neighborhood. So we're doing sort of a contemporary take on this building form. So on the sheet next to you, you'll see the new proposal. So we basically kept that character, and that allowed us at the rear of the home to be a little bit more fluid with our architecture. And you'll notice that some of the variances that we have relate to the rear. If you look, so we have a rendition of the front facade on SK 103. And then the following page is a rendition of the rear. Okay, so the diagram at the beginning, SK 102, illustrates the 5 variances that we have. I think I would speak to, let me speak to a couple of them just to sort of clarify. The height is consistent with the adjacent buildings. So from the 3D scan, we were able to sort of figure out where the building to the north was, and we aligned our height to that so that we have that relationship. The building length, I'll speak to. In that diagram, SK 102, you'll see that blue highlighted area is what triggers the building length variance. What we've done is kept it at 1 story, and we've set it back from the side yards quite a bit to mitigate any impact that it may have. So we're looking at what the intention of that bylaw is, or and trying to mitigate any impact for the 4 tests. The other variance relates to the height of the main wall at the rear. So what I want to point out, this is, it's always a sort of interesting bylaw in terms of how we shape the building. So if you look at the rear rendition on sheet 104, you'll see we've created a gabled end facade. And that's the area that's triggering that particular bylaw. If we were to have a sloped roof or a pitched roof at that point, or a hip roof, sorry, we would not have the variance. We do have support from all the neighbors. We felt that this, because it's at the rear of the property, created very, very minimal impact. You can't see it from the street. And we do have the support from all the surrounding neighbors for that. So I think the last one is the canopy. What we're proposing is to keep sort of the existing condition of parking on the side of the house. But the client thought that as a feature that would be beneficial would be to have a canopy to cover that. We do have the support from the neighbor to the south, and they are actually kind of excited about having that there. So.
Except my client think it's okay to have a canopy of that nature. Why do you need 2.78 meters?
To cover the extent of the car. So if there's a passenger exiting the car, they can be under the canopy as well. And we have a side entry at that location. The owners have canvassed the neighborhood. We've done our due diligence. So I think there's a consensus about the treatment of the facade that I think it's been well received, that we're trying to be sensitive to the design and architecture of the street.
Any other questions, panel members? Okay, we're in committee now. Discussion or a motion?
Through you, Madam Chair, it's an interesting design, and I think a lot of thought did indeed go into it in terms of making the front facade look nice. As for the canopy, comparing that to putting a garage there or even a carport with the wall, I would say that the canopy at least leaves a little bit more fluidness in terms of open space. Clearly, a lot of neighbors are in support, as indicated by the petition. There are older homes in the area, and again, this proposal has been sensitive to maintaining that look, certainly from the street. So I'm comfortable with this application in terms of the criteria we look at. Is there any other comments? If not, I would move approval of the application, as I believe it meets the 4 tests and fits within the context of the neighborhood.
Second that motion. So a motion by Ms. Oman, seconded by Mr. Russell for approval of the application. All in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Number 19, 129 Campbell Avenue. Yes,
after this one.
Wait after this one. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there's someone in, are you in opposition? Okay. Have you had a chance to talk?
Oh, yeah, she agreed to whatever she...
Okay, so we're going to hold it down because we had thought it was just yourself, so you'll hold it down and we'll be... No, I understand that, but when we vetted the agenda, no one was here initially, items that people were here to speak to were held down for people to have discussions, and then we're going to go back to those items, so you'll be included in those items, and we'll be starting those in just a moment. Okay? Thank you. So now that we have finished the items that were not contested, we're going to just take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to start back with item number 10. Okay? So we'll be back in 5 minutes. So we're back in session. I'm going to proceed with item number 10. Is the opposition still here? Could you please come and sit on our left, please? Thank you. Is everybody back in the room, or do you need another minute? Okay. Yes, if we could sit on the left-hand side here, please. Thank you. Yeah. Just those that are intending to speak. Just those who are intending to speak can sit on the left here, please. Thank you very much. So we'll just wait till they're seated. So I'm just going to, while everybody's getting settled, I'm going to just go through what the committee has before it. We have a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Decision number A0123-08 TEY, a previous decision affecting the subject property. Staff reports from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District. Report from the Acting Supervisor, Tree Protection and Plan Review, Urban Forestry. 14 form letters in support signed by owners and occupants of 34 and 39 Chestnut Park, 74, 76, and 78 Cluny. 22, 32, 44, 45, 49 Chestnut Park, 56 and 80 Cluny, 36 and 85 Roxborough Street East. Letters in opposition received from 202, Unit 202, 66 Roxborough, Unit 403, 66 Roxborough, Unit 302, 66 Roxborough, Unit 301, 66 Roxborough, Unit 201, 66 Roxborough, Unit 203, 66 Roxborough, Unit 401, 66 Roxborough, and number 303, 66 Roxborough Street East. We could have your name and address, sir.
William Dewson. I'm architect and agent for Kirsten Rottensten and VJ Nandel, the owners of 35 Chestnut Park.
Okay, so if you could please proceed with your presentation.
Yes, we are here to ask for 3 variances to allow for a 2-story, 2-car garage and studio space above at 35 Chestnut Park. As you mentioned, there was a previous notice of decision and approval of variances for the previous owner of this property. And I have a diagram up on the overhead projector that shows that previous approved plan and went through to approved building permit is the shaded area in red. 27-foot by 21-foot 6 footprint. And you can see that it would require the demolition of the existing garage that is still there today and noted by the outline of existing brick garage to be demolished. That is, they did not proceed with that building permit. The owners, new owners of 35 Chestnut Park, would like to move that building from the location in red to the location in green, and are asking for a studio space above the 2-car garage. Purpose for moving it from red to green is to create a backyard location, a rear yard privacy. If I may, for context, this is Cluny. Here's entrance drive. And their current yard is in this zone. And by moving the garage forward, that gives them privacy in the backyard. As you mentioned, we also have a staff report from Robert Bersini at the staff, and on page 2 under comments, last paragraph, I point to the garage is designed with peaked roof and side dormers which respect the massing intended by the zoning bylaw and is contextually appropriate, providing a buffer between the existing detached dwelling on the lot and the apartment building to the south. Staff are also satisfied that the proposal meets the newly adopted official plan policies. I also point to the very last paragraph, page 3, and last sentence. It says, the opaque windows on the south side of the garage are necessary to limit privacy and overlook to the adjacent building. So we're in the construction drawings, building permit drawings, we will be including opaque windows on the dormer that faces south. Secondly, I point to the staff report from Heritage Preservation Services, to page 2, second last paragraph, last sentence. As such, HPS, Heritage Preservation Services, staff considered that the proposal does not conflict with guidelines of the South Rosedale HCD plan, and the garage would not detract from the heritage character of this part of Rosedale HCD. You've mentioned we have 14 letters of support. Canvassed the neighborhood. The subject property is in blue. Their next door neighbor to the east in green are in support. Across the street on Clooney, 4 direct neighbors across the street are in support. Objections come from the apartment building 66 Roxborough. I believe there's 8 letters of opposition, all from that apartment building, which is understandable because they are the next door neighbor directly to the south and affected by the move. Essentially, it comes down to shifting the building from the new location and disrupting the view from 66 Roxborough, which you see at the bottom of the page. You can see Unit 202 and Unit 201. The dimensions 6'6", 6'6" are the 2 windows, one for Unit 202, one for Unit 201. Current approved variances affect 202. New proposal will affect Unit 201 directly. I leave it open to the opposition or any questions that the committee may have.
I think we'll hear from the other parties first, and then we may have some questions for you when you come back. Firstly, sir, can we have your name and address?
Sure. My name is John Mazurek, and I live in Unit 303 at 66 Roxborough Street East.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
That microphone can move up so you don't have to crouch
Thank you.
too much.
I have some prepared remarks, and to stick to the time limit, I'm just going to read those now, okay? So thanks for the opportunity. I'm speaking at the request of the 10 owners in my building, 66 Roxborough Street East. I'm the president of the condominium board. It is a condominium, not an apartment. It's our unanimous view that permission should not be granted for the proposed ancillary building at 35 Chestnut Park. As you can see, it's the property adjacent to and directly north of our building. We object to the plan on multiple grounds. First, the proposed floor area of over 104 square meters is a major variance to bylaw 569/2013. The allowable floor area under that bylaw is just 60 square meters. That means this proposal is 74% greater than the limit. And the 2008 approval, those limits were not in place. So translating that to this proposal is not entirely germane. Also, it was floor area approved for a different location than this particular proposal now. Our second objection is the proposed height of 5.49 meters. That exceeds the maximum of 4 meters permitted in the same bylaw. That's 37% above the limit. And again, this is a major, not a minor variance. You may see in the photo back there, it's kind of hard to see, but the present garage is very far back from the road. The height of that garage is below our third-story windows. You can see second, third, and fourth-story windows on the north side. This would be considerably taller than that. So we're talking about an 18 foot and half an inch tall height for this building, which is far beyond the 4-meter mark in the bylaws. Our third objection is that the proposed structure has 2 stories. The bylaw clearly limits ancillary buildings to just 1 story. Fourth, the design of that second story, which includes 2 dormers, windows on all 4 sides, and an internal staircase from the ground floor, suggests that the structure is intended for possible conversion at a later date to an apartment, nanny suite, or other such dwelling. The suggestion is even stronger when the large dimensions outlined in the above-mentioned 3 major variances are considered. We believe this does not conform to the principles set out in the city's official plan, Chapter 4.1, items 5C and 5D, and I quote, "Development in established neighborhoods will respect and reinforce the existing physical character of the neighborhood, including in particular," 5C says, "heights, massing, scale, and dwelling type of nearby residential properties and prevailing building types." Even if the new structure does not include plumbing and the second story is presently, at least in the plans, envisaged as a storage area, the possibilities for future refitting or renovation and use as a dwelling are obvious. In short, this is a coach house with, or a studio, if you will, with live-in potential, not a like-for-like replacement of an existing garage. That is, with 1 story and room for 2 cars. Fifth, the proposed coach house would sit approximately 8 feet closer to Clooney, the Clooney sidewalk than our building. You can see right there, there's a tree to the right of that car. If you went to that dark spot closer to the road from there, you can see kind of something budding out of the snow. This structure would go even closer to than that to the sidewalk. And you can see that that would have an impact on the northwest windows of our building as well. There are also some balconies just out of the picture which would be affected in their views. So that's a considerable change to the setback. In fact, a reduction of 74% from the current garage location, which stands approximately 68 feet from the sidewalk. And again, I repeat that the 2008 approval was for the location where the present garage is, not for this new location that's been asked for. Combined with the 5.49 meter height of the structure and the fact that the second story floor dormer, overhang, and soffit would be jammed right up to the property line, this location would reduce light and views for at least 4 of our owners who have north and northwest facing windows.
5 minutes, so if you could just wrap up when you're...
Okay, thank you.
Please.
On the second and third floors. So, in summary, the proposal variances for 35 Chestnut should not be granted. They don't conform to the purpose and intent of the city official plan, nor those of bylaw 569/2013. They're major, not minor variances. If permitted, they result in a building inappropriate in scale, potential function, and location, a building all of which would negatively impact our owners and our neighborhood. So thanks for your consideration.
Sir? You can remain seated there, sir, until...
Okay, so my name is James Mcgilvery. I'm the agent and son of the owners of 201-66 Roxborough. And I'll be brief in the interest of time. I just wanted to kind of show you some representation of the impact on 2 of the windows of the building. You can see here in the floor plan that the footprint of the proposed building is about at the halfway point of the north-facing bedroom, and those are bedroom windows on the north side of that building. In elevation, the concept of this drawing is to show the windows of the of those units on the elevation of the new building. So the 201 is the bottom yellow square rectangle there. You can see that it's severely affected by this new building. And then I think 301 is also affected to a certain extent. Unfortunately, the owners of units of the whole building of 66 were actually notified on the 14th or 15th of February. So obviously much closer to the hearing date than we would have preferred, being that this was in the works for about 6 months. There are many things that could be done to this coach house to assuage these problems, but unfortunately we find ourselves on the day of the hearing without any ability to adjust the design. So I guess agreeing with the previous comments, but also I think the application should not be approved so that we can have the time to make changes to the design if this design is indeed feasible. Okay, thank you.
Questions? Sorry.
So are you suggesting then that maybe we should defer this and maybe it can work out deferred and have making changes?
I think we'd prefer that it not be approved so we can start the discussion at the beginning.
If it's not approved, we have to start from scratch, but I mean, is it not possible to make changes at this time that would allow him to, or both of you to discuss what changes may be possible?
I think we would prefer to start from scratch, but I'll leave it to the committee, and also maybe we can hear the agent for the owner, what their opinion would be on deferral or refusal. Thank you.
Sorry, I'd forgotten to ask the committee members if they had any questions of Mr. Mazurek. No. Okay, thank you. Mr. Russell, do you have the same question? Of
Yeah,
the other?
well, you want to answer the same question?
If you could stand enough, please. Thank you.
As was mentioned, we only found out about this less than 3 weeks ago, and we do know other people who have letters of approval or at least a week in advance of that. So some people in the neighborhood were consulted and we weren't. Secondly, we've just spent over an hour outside trying to talk with the architect, and it was his decision not to go for deferral. He listened to what we had to say and then said, no, I'm going ahead.
The new plans to pull back the garage building, has that been circulated?
No new plans.
No new plans?
No plans.
Okay.
It's the previous application was at the back. This one's.
That application was from 2008 for a previous owner, not for the current owner, and this design is much different. The old one had only 1 story. This has 2 stories. The location is different. The height is considerably different.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So, Mr. Dusan, could you please, your response to just the issues that have been raised by the gentleman, please?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Okay. Sorry, you may have to come to the podium so that it's picked up or turn on the microphone there, just because it's being taped and.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
That's working.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm referring back to the previous drawing for context. This is 35 Chestnut Park, the house. This is in gray, the neighbor's coach house, 2-story coach house at 39 Chestnut Park. Here was the previously approved 1-story garage, and here's our proposed 2-story, 2-car garage with studio above. This is an elevation looking from 35 Chestnut Park, the house, south towards the condominium building being in gray. The unit's windows are shown in these square windows here.
Sorry for the fuzz. The previously approved expanded garage is what you see on the right outline of the approved 2008 minor variance. Within that is the existing garage as it sits right now, which is hatched. Beside to the left or to the east is the two-story coach house from CHESTNUT Park. The two-story CHESTNUT Park coach house is 20 feet high. The previously approved is 15 foot 11, I'll call it 16 feet. And the outline of our new proposal is shown to the right. It is at 18 feet. So I'll draw your attention to 20 feet, 16 feet, 18 feet. Our proposal is 2 feet below the coach house to the east and 2 feet above the old proposal. Here is that same elevation with the new location and the new proposal. As you can see, it's a bit of a six of one, half dozen of the other. If we build the approved 2008 garage, it blocks unit 202 window at the bottom. If we are approved and build the new proposal to the west, it blocks the western or 201 view. Yes, our proposal is higher than the previously approved one-story garage by 2 feet. Has minor effect on the windows on the third floor and no effect on the windows on the fourth floor. I also draw your attention that we work very closely with Heritage for the materiality and the setback, as well as with the planners in the staff at City Planning to come up with this location that affords the owners privacy for the backyard. I leave that open for questions that you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Dewson?
The new proposal, while it doesn't affect the fourth floor, the third floor is no block.
Here's the windows on the fourth floor. So whether the building is here or whether the building is here, I don't see any effect to their view, light. It's just the positioning as they look down from their windows where the garage is. The third floor is here. Third floor windows are these two windows. There's a slight effect in elevation of the bottom of the window of this unit. On the second floor, as you can see, the previous version would cut through the view of this window, straight through view. Our proposal affects the view of this window. In totality, it has the same effect on that overall facade. It's just one unit is affected, and in one situation, the other unit is affected in the other situation.
The setback variance that was granted in 2008, would that have put the structure where you're proposing your structure now? Or are you just...
The altered garage will be set back, the previous was 3.55.
Right. I know you have no variances now, but I'm just curious, with the approval you were given in 2008, where would that garage be sitting?
The 2008?
Yeah.
Garage, there was a setback here of 3.55.
So it would be shifted.
Here, we're shifted, the closest location is actually greater, 3.62. This building is angled back. relative to this face, so it gets wider as you go farther back. So the closest point is at, in fact, greater than the previous proposal.
So why are you seeking additional height? Because you want a second story?
Correct, a studio space.
You mentioned the house immediately behind has a two-story garage. Are there others in the neighborhood that you can point to?
Yes. This is a two-story coach house. That's the one I'm referring to here, the neighbor. Across the street at 34, there is a two-story coach house here. Neighbor directly across the street, neighbor directly to the east, both have two-story coach houses.
If you were to build the existing, or the proposed structure in the existing spot, would you be blocking windows at 66 or not?
Correct. Here's the outline. Of the approved of 2008. So it would block this window. In our proposal, we're blocking this window. And a sliver here.
Any other questions? No other questions?
No.
So we're in committee?
May I make one more comment?
Sure.
There also has been some concern with the materiality of the building, particularly the metal roof. We are willing to work with 66 Roxborough. The concerns came from 66 Roxborough to work with the materiality of the building. We arrived at the materiality of the building with working with Heritage, but we can revisit that going back to Heritage. More than willing to do that.
Just what kind of studio is this? Just curious.
Like an artist studio, work studio, and studio for the owner as a office workspace.
Okay, because you know the planning recommendation is no water and sewage services to be connected.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we're in committee. Discussion or motion? Yes, please, if you can file them with staff, thank you. Discussion or motion?
I'm somewhat conflicted on this one, actually, mainly because of the floor area. In terms of this type of structure being in the neighborhood, I mean, there are other examples. So in terms of fitting into the character, I don't feel it's necessarily out of character. But it is quite a large variance, and then the second story as well. Although, again, there are some examples.
Positioning of the lot may maybe a differing impact than in the original application for the variance that was dealt with in 2008.
But based on what the applicant showed us, it's one window blocked a very little bit, but that's because the other ones seem to have a bit of a slope to the roof, whereas this one is flat. No, there's no setback variances at all.
While it's not extra large, but large enough, it's large enough to be
It's height, it's not a huge height increase, but I think we have heard from the neighbors that the impact of that height is exactly what height limits are seeking to prevent. So it's rejecting it on, to suggest rejecting it there is on a single numerically reasonable variance, but it's also one that's varying the exact purpose.
I mean, the previous height granted was 4.85, so we're now going up another like half a meter.
The FSI is...
Yeah, that was one of my concerns, was the floor space. Is that a motion?
Yeah.
Motion? Is there a seconder to Mr. Russell's motion?
I'll second that.
So we have a motion from Mr. Russell, seconded by Mr. Carlson for refusal of the application. All in favor? Your applications have been refused. Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Number 11, 182 Humberside Avenue. If you could please come forward. The committee has before a copy of a plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Email correspondence from the Assistant Planner, Community Planning, City Planning, Toronto and East York District. 3 signature petition and support signed by the owners or occupants of 189, 192, and 201 Humberside Avenue. And correspondence in opposition from the property owners at 122 Mavity Street. Could we please have your name and address, please?
Yes, my name is David Riley. I'm here on behalf of the property owners. Address is 1547 Bloor Street West.
Okay, could we have your presentation, please?
Yes. So the proposal before you is to alter the existing dwelling by constructing a 3rd-story addition. And also, there is a variance for soft landscaping in the rear yard. So the first variance that's required relates to floor space index, requesting floor space index of 0.81 times the lot area. In this application, there is actually no change to the existing footprint of the building. The existing floor space index of the first floor and the second floor is equal to about 0.6. With the addition of the floor space that's proposed on the 3rd floor, that brings you to 0.81. You can see here it's very similar in terms of mirror the east and west elevation. This is the east elevation that we're looking at here. And you can see that the 3rd floor space will be built within the roof line, except for a dormer that sticks out on the east side and on the west side, generally the same size dormer. The dormer has been set back from the front wall and the rear wall to kind of mitigate the impact of that additional massing from the street and from the rear.
In terms of impact on neighboring properties, in my opinion, the impact is mitigated because it's really, it's not really extending the massing of the dwelling to the boundaries of the footprint. It's localizing it as much as possible within the center. There's no windows proposed on the sides of both dormers, so that mitigates the impact of privacy. Generally, in my opinion, the additional floor area does not cause that adverse impact. With respect to the landscape variance, I'm going to put up two diagrams. One is the existing survey, and which shows the existing extent of landscaping in the rear yard versus the proposed. So that's the survey, and I'm going to see if I can put the other one right beside it. So what I've done here is, so the image on the left is showing the survey, the existing situation, except for that one-story little bump out in the back is not there anymore. That was there when the survey was taken, but that's already been removed. And the green highlighted area is where the extent of the existing soft landscaping is. When you're looking at the image on the right is where the proposed soft landscaping is. So it does propose slightly more. I don't have the exact number for the survey, but visually you can see there is a little bit more soft landscaping being provided. There is a deck which will not provide space for a table on the deck, but provide access to a patio, and that patio and walkway is what makes up the rest of the portion of the rear yard of landscaping. And then there is the existing garage. So the existing garage takes up the majority of the rear yard. If you were to remove all of the patio, the soft landscaping would be roughly around 47%. So the variances for 29 takes into account that realistically, there would be a patio there even if it wasn't a requested variance today. So we're proposing to formalize this in an application to show the extent of the proposed patio and resulting reduction in landscaping. If you look at the property, this is fairly dark here, but this is the subject property right here. And you can see the surroundings, and you can see kind of the extent. This is a little bit shadowed. This is a 2012 air photo, but it's what showed the extent of the landscaping on the existing landscaping on the property the best. So you can see the paved area and the green space that I highlighted on the survey. But also you can see on some of the other properties kind of that mix between hard and soft landscaping, as well as the character of garages in the area. So in my opinion, it's just reflecting the existing character of the property and is compatible with the character of soft and hard landscaping in the rear. So overall, in my opinion, that these variances are appropriate and do meet the 4 tests.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you. May we hear from yourselves, please? Thank you. Your name?
Hi. Good morning. My name's Steven Zajkowski. I'm the owner of 264 Keel Street. I'm here with my wife and my neighbor. I tried doing a little bit of research on some of the questions that I had, and I was talking to the application technician. He turned me over to the zoning office, or zoning notice office. I left a few messages, so you'll have to forgive me. I'm not an architect. But anyway, so number one, we were just questioning the accuracy of this floor space. And one of the questions that I had, if you have a 2-story dwelling and there's an attic with no staircase, is it a 2.5-story or is it a 2-story?
I'm not the zoning examiner, so I'm going to interpret it, but if it's no access?
Yeah, there's no access to the attic. Currently.
Probably a two-story.
So here they have 2.5-story, and they currently have put up a staircase before the application to the 3rd floor or to the proposed attic. So
I think that the plan, if you're asking about the accuracy of the notice, is that your question?
Well, I would think the accuracy and the differentiation between the
Well, this would have been examined by staff, so this went through zoning review. So to determine what variances were required. So someone in city staff has reviewed the application as applied for against the bylaws and this.
My question is, I've been in that house many times, and we know that there's no staircase going to the attic, and somebody's been in there since recently, and they've installed the staircase going to the attic. So I don't know if it's a little presumptuous to think they're getting the permit, but anyways, that was just clarification on that. I guess the second thing I had was the green space. We've got a garage right behind, and I noticed they wanted to go from 50% to 29%, so almost a 50% variance. Our garage gets flooded. Audrey, the woman that used to own it, there's a bit of an elevation on their side, and the water drains. And our garage, their old garage, it's 2x4s on concrete. There's no higher raised foundation. The water just pours right into our garage, and it's creating a nuisance. I know there was another letter that somebody submitted about the drainage issues and the soft land issues. And I guess thirdly, and I guess I'm entitled to my opinion here, but on the drawing of the 3rd floor, the dormer on the east side, they were saying there's no windows, and it was just they showed. I guess they had some siding there. I think anybody in their right mind that buys this building for $2.5 million is going to be putting a window in there so they can have a view of the sun or the sunrise. I think one of the reasons why this wasn't put on the drawing is to minimize the attention. I'd like to show you some photos if I can of our property.
No, just put it.
This is your property?
So this is our, you know what, here, maybe I can try this here. So we enter off of Humberside, the back, not off the street. So we have a nice deck in the back that if whoever buys this and puts a window, and again, I don't want to be presumptuous, but there's a good possibility that a window will go in that dormer eventually. It will be overlooking our bedroom, our deck in the back, our back door, our whole backyard. I think just the, I don't know, what was the interpretation of enjoyment, or, it's, we've been there for 21 years. I think it's inappropriate to the area, to the architecture. The folks that are building this place are flipping it because we've talked to them, so we know their intentions. I think it's all about, maximizing the value and the profit. I think if they want a bigger house, then maybe move to a bigger house in High Park, so that's my my take on this, and I would strongly oppose the passing of this application. Thank you.
Any questions? Do you wish to speak, sir? Okay, all right. Okay. Ms. Riley, can we then hear your response, please?
Yes. So I'd just like to point out that there is no window proposed on the side elevation, and the owner is completely comfortable with, should the committee decide to approve this, to have it contingent on being substantially in accordance with the plans, which do not show a window. What is behind this wall here is the bed. So it's actually, the bed is supposed to be up against this wall, and then there's a window facing forwards in the in the dormer, so facing south. There's no proposed window here, and that's all I can say to that. It's not part of the proposal. With respect to the landscaping, I did speak to the fact that the landscaping does represent an improvement on the current situation. Without this variance, the situation is what it is. In my opinion, it does create for some more larger contiguous areas of soft landscaping in the rear yard. The applicant would also be willing to consider putting permeable pavers down on the patio, and that could be a condition as well. So I just wanted to mention that. Happy to answer any other questions.
So the FSI you're requesting, is there, can you provide any examples to the committee of whether or not that is common or existing in the neighborhood?
I can show you, I don't have any statistics, but I can show you some photos of dwellings that would show similar structures in the roof line and similar sized dwellings that would show that the house size is similar. Yes, on the same street. So this property here is 200 Humberside. So it's on the next block over to the west from the subject property. We're at 182. It's showing a very similar dormer style addition in the roof, which would mean that the floor space index would count for the third floor. There's also different configurations between windows all along the third floor of most dwellings in the neighborhood. Here's just another view of the street. This is the subject property. The property next door. This is a view from the rear yard. So I'm standing in the rear yard looking east at the properties on Keel. You can see that the third floor is being used in some of these properties as there are some decks and amenity space access off of there. Here's a building on the corner of Humberside and Mavity, I believe, where it shows a much more substantial mass on the third floor. This is on the same block. So in my opinion, this is a very modest additional floor space request, and that does really fit in with the character of the neighborhood without having an adverse impact on the massing in relation to neighboring properties.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, so we're in committee now. Thank you. Discussion or a motion?
I am comfortable with this. I mean, hearing that the neighbors have concerns, the floor space index is well within what's reasonable. The structure itself does fit into the community, and soft landscaping isn't ideal, but especially with the permeable paver requirement on the patio.
Also, we heard that it's an improvement over the existing situation. I mean, I hear from the neighbors with respect to, the dormers, and if there was a window on that side, because it's at the end of the block and the houses are this way versus the other, but it's not proposed, and I think the FSI is not unreasonable, and the structure's not.
We're very shaky around to make decisions on things that might be done to a structure that aren't called for.
I agree. No, I agree with everything that's been said, and the landscaping is being improved, and if we put a condition on for permeable pavers on the patio, I think that would help as well in terms of getting comments made in one of the letters.
So could I, somebody prepared to
So,
move a motion?
no further discussion. I would move approval of the application as I believe it to be an appropriate use of the property. and would include a condition that the patio be constructed with permeable pavers.
Is there a seconder? So motion by Mr. Carlson, seconded by Mr. Russell for approval of the application subject to the condition that the patio be constructed with permeable pavers. All in favor? Your application's approved on those conditions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 12, 33 Abbott Avenue. The committee has before it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, 2 photographs of existing partially built garage, decision number A0721/17 TEY, affecting the subject property, location map showing properties in support of the application, correspondence from Ozen Stambach, agent containing communication with the technical coordinator, development engineering, supporting material from the agent showing comparisons of proposed variances and as-of-right zoning permissions, email correspondence from the engineering technical coordinator, development engineering, engineering and construction services, Toronto and East York District, staff report from the manager, development engineering, engineering and construction services, Toronto and East York District, correspondence in support or no opposition from 15 Abbott, 17 Abbott, 25 Abbott, 26 Abbott, 27 Abbott, 29 Abbott, 35 Abbott, 36 Abbott, 37 Abbott, 39 Abbott, another correspondence from 39 Abbott, 41 Abbott, 45 Abbott, 49 Abbott, 34 Glen Lake, 34 Abbott, and 32 Glen Lake, and correspondence in opposition from 31 Abbott. Can I have your name, please?
My name's Osrin Stambuk. I'm the agent of the applicant.
Okay, your presentation, go ahead, please.
Yes. So we have before us a proposal to build a second-story laneway suite on an existing structure that was approved in a previous Committee of Adjustment decision for a two-car parking space garage. And many of our variances arise out of building on top of this existing structure, which is impractical to move because it was built with a proper 4-foot deep frost wall. So we're proposing to build on top of what is already there. And one of those significant variances is that we're requiring 52% soft landscaping area between the laneway suite and the back wall of the house. And I think that variance needs to be considered first in light of the fact that the overhang below the laneway suite is not being counted in that area. If it is counted, we're closer to 60%. And we do propose for that for the patio below that overhang to be paved in permeable pavers or to remain as green landscaping. I think the landscaping we're proposing between the house really fits into the neighborhood. And actually, I can show an aerial map. You can see where 33 Abbott is indicated. And this was the shape of the lot in the garage before the new garage structure was approved. And if you look at some of the other properties on the lot, there is generally significantly less landscaping than what would be considered as of right. And one of the reasons for this, I believe, is this because the area has excellent drainage. It is sand-based, and so I think we shouldn't have any concerns for potential impact to stormwater drainage. And indeed, what we are proposing, if we show the zoning map that shows our support as well, it also gives a little bit of an indication of there are many large structures abutting laneways in the area. Overall, we have elected to improve the landscaping compared to what was there before. With the previous application for the garage, we did obtain a landscape plan. The owners obtained a landscape plan in order to improve the area. You can show that too. So there was work done to create a landscape plan to fit into the garage structure, which may need to be modified slightly now because we have an overhang. But overall, the main reason for this variance is because the owner does not want to reduce the size of the existing deck, and they have put in the effort to make sure that the impact of the deck and the garage is mitigated through proper landscaping. So in that sense, the landscape variance for the front of the garage arises out of the same condition. We have an existing structure that needs a driveway, so we have a landscape variance because we have little green space, but again, we are going to pave that existing driveway with permeable pavers to mitigate any impact on drainage of an area that's already doing well. Likewise, our front yard, rear yard landscape variances also arise out of the fact that we're building on an existing structure. And I might add, in the comparison study that I've added to the file, the as-of-right landscape, even if it was moved back from the rear property line, would be much bigger and have much bigger impact to neighborhood and generally reduce the overall landscape size in the area. Right now, our landscape suite proposal has a footprint of 57.17 meters squared, whereas an as-of-right landscape would be allowed to have a footprint of 80 meters squared. So that would generally reduce landscaping overall on the lot, and it would impact neighbors in a negative way potentially, because it could be closer to a property line of the opposition potentially. So really, all of our variances are arising out of having an existing structure that we are proposing to put a second-story laneway suite on. Thank you.
In your drawing, A300, that door.
Yes?
Is this what's that door for? One on the left. Second floor, sorry. Second floor.
Second floor plan?
Drawing A300?
Yeah.
You've got a door there on the second floor. What's that for?
That's interior. That's space interior.
It's a cross section.
It's a cross section. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions right now? Okay. So thank you very much. May we hear from you, please? Could I have your name and address, please?
Yes. My name is Nadine Hasioglu. I'm speaking on behalf of my mother, Marlene Hasioglu, and my brother, Neil Wegman, who live at 31 Abbott Avenue.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, I'm not sure if you've had a chance to review our submission that was yesterday. Okay, thank you. We are direct neighbors of the applicants that reside at 33 Abbott Avenue. My family and I have resided at 31 Abbott Avenue for almost 35 years. We would like to be heard and make it known that we do not approve to any of the variances being requested by the applicants. We are against the construction of turning their garage into a two-story laneway house. Being their immediate and direct next-door neighbors, we feel strongly that our consideration should weigh more heavily in your decision-making process. Our concerns, the applicants state in their supporting materials submitted on February 20th that we verbally approved their plans, and that is absolutely not true. The applicants never told us they were building a two-story laneway house. They did not show us any of the drawings or plans, which based on the letters of approval that they were shared with all the neighbors mentioned. We only found out through the public hearing notice all the plans, and that's the first time we've seen any of this. On February 28th, last Thursday, we invited the applicants to talk to us about their proposal and their concerns. As per the city's zoning bylaw, a minimum of 85% soft landscaping is required between the rear main wall of the main residence and the ancillary building, but only 52% is being proposed. From our perspective, it will be even less than 52%, given that the open area is not on our side. We are on the east side. You can see in the plan submitted by the applicants on pages 4 and 5. We are losing an immense amount of green space. And I've also provided some pictures as well in our file. Neil, if you want to show 1, 2, and 3, just to put that into perspective. As per the city's zoning bylaw, a minimum of 75% of soft landscaping is required between the building containing a laneway suite and the lot line abutting lane. If the applicant's plans do go ahead, only 46 will be provided, and the variance here is almost 30% lower. The applicant's proposal does not comply with city standards. High Park is a neighborhood known for lush green and natural environment. It is important that these characteristics continue, also for our ecosystem. As per the city's zoning bylaw, the minimum required rear yard setback for an auxiliary building containing a laneway suite is 1.5 meters. The applicants are proposing a set of 0.3 meters. The proposed building is too large in area, and the variance here is quite significant, in our opinion, and does not comply. We believe the city bylaw requires this amount of space for safety, as there needs to be a certain amount of safe space between exiting directly onto the lane, which is used by neighboring cars and bicycles. As per the city zoning bylaw, the minimum required side yard setback for a laneway suite containing a sidewall opening is 1.5 meters. That is not going to be the case. The applicants propose 1.14 meters from the east side lot line. This impacts us directly, being the residents on the east side. This is way too narrow of a gap. Being so close impedes our privacy, and we will be further closed in. Last city zoning bylaw, the proposed laneway suite will exceed the maximum permitted height of 6 meters by 0.21 meters. We object to the applicant's proposal in height. We ask the committee take into account the height increase because it already went up with the construction of the garage approved in November 2017. If the construction of a second level takes place, we would be losing even more direct sunlight throughout the majority of the day. Our backyard's natural environment will be adversely affected. Adding an additional floor and then also exceeding the height maximum set by the city bylaw is very extreme here. The recent garage that was approved had a floor area variance of 58 square meters, whereby the city bylaw is a maximum of 40 square meters. We would not have approved this variance in 2017, having known that a 2-story laneway house would be built on top of that. This is over the floor area maximum of 7.2%. And to put this into another perspective, the floor area of the second-story building will almost be the same as the residential building on the same lot. The floor area being requested is overwhelmingly large. It will set precedence for others to go from 40 square feet to 58 square feet. Neil, if you want to show the aerial view, again, to put it into perspective from a different angle. You have that on your phone? As he does that, I'll quickly wrap up here. So concerns about privacy. So the red is where the garage would be in their, based on their proposal with the overhang. And we are to the east. So if you look at it, we're just on the bottom side of that in the detached home. Privacy is an issue. The distance of the proposed 2-story laneway house will mean that we lose privacy in our backyard as well as from our second-floor bathroom window. Space is an issue. With such a large area in our backyard becoming set up right against a 2-story building, we will feel trapped. Noise is an issue. Adding an additional dwelling as well as it being smack against our garden means there will be inevitably an increase in noise from people coming in and out. And the applicants did confirm last Thursday when we sat down that the intention is to rent out the 1-bedroom upstairs if that should go ahead. Natural environment, our growing garden and vegetation will be impacted. Complete loss of sun from the southwest side. The construction of a 2-story laneway house will obstruct most of the sun we have in our backyard. We've had recent flooding in our own basement. That is a concern as well. We don't know what the impact would be having another building so close or another residence so close to our back door entrance.
Wrap up, please.
Yep. Our lane is a dead-end lane, meaning there is a fire and safety concern. Contrary to what the letters of support state, we're not gaining an extra parking spot. by the addition of a two-story laneway house. The applicants own one car, which has always been parked in their private driveway for the past 20 years. In addition, they have now a two garage, which was approved in November 2017.
Please finish.
I'm going to jump to the
We're
points
at
about
7 minutes.
Okay.
You have a concluding remark? Make quickly.
It will set precedents in the neighborhood, High Park, and it does not pass the test. There are no minor, in our opinion, these are not minor changes. The variances are not minor in nature. They're very tight quarters to begin with.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any questions of this individual at the moment? Thank you. Thank you. Could you please respond to the issues raised?
I'm not really sure where to start. I mean, there was just so much misinformation there. What I have up on the projector right now, what you have received is a comparison between the as of right and what we are proposing in size. So what we are proposing is actually relatively humble to what they assume we are proposing. The aerial Google map made absolutely no sense because the overhang is still at a considerable distance from the deck. The aerial Google map actually nicely showed what could be permitted for a laneway suite to be much closer to the back of the building. The maximum distance is 7.5 meters. We are proposing the laneway suite to be more than 4 meters, an extra 4 meters, closer to 11.4 from the back of the building. The laneway suite will not be in bigger area than the existing house because it's only the second story. The whole purpose of having that two-story garage on the main floor is so that cars can park there. The previous garage wasn't big enough to accommodate any parking. But we could eliminate that entire parking space on that main floor, on the existing floor, turn that entire main floor into a laneway suite, and get rid of the driveway, the small sliver of driveway leading to the laneway suite, and turn it all into green area. So, I mean, part of the reason for that variance for the green landscape between the rear yard and the landscape is because we want to have a driveway to actually be able to use the parking area inside of the garage. We have had our site plan approved by fire services, and we have provided the required distances to the nearest hydrants, so there should be no safety concerns. And yeah, I'm open to all of your questions and concerns.
So with respect to the setbacks that you're requesting, you can't comply because the garage has already been built?
Yes. So the garage structure, as they have shown in the photos, is already in place. And the construction was halted once it became possible to propose a laneway suite.
So you're not prepared to alter the building as partially built to comply with the side yards?
In order to comply with the side yards, first of all, let's just talk about the side yard setback of 1.14 meter. This is only arising because of a side entrance door. If we remove that door and made the entrance come from the rear yard, there is no side yard setback requirement for a wall with no windows. It can be 0 meters. That's why on the second, on the as of right diagram there, I've shown that potential garage that's 80 square meters right up against the property line. So that door is essential to create privacy for the rear yard so that tenants can not access from the front but through the laneway and the side. And there are no other windows on that area, and so that's the main thing.
Okay.
Now the rear yard setback, the whole garage would have to be reconstructed. If we were to push that garage 1.5 meters from the rear yard, the entire foundation would have to be reconstructed. And Peter, can you show the picture of the foundation build? Any foundation one. This one. So this was built 4 feet deep into the ground. There is no way to easily move it, no way to change it, plus the walls have been built. It is now temporarily covered. And just one last thing about the height. We are perfectly fine with having a condition set so that the laneway is at 6 meters. The increased height is for the sake of a proper weatherproofed skylight. So this is what's encroaching about 18 inches above once a proper curb wall is made. And I might just also add a final point.
You're saying that you wish to take out that variance, or no?
I'm fine for the skylight, and
That's the only reason, the height.
that's the only reason. And I might add that the laneway bylaw also permits an additional meter of height for housing of mechanical equipment for the operation of the laneway. We have elected to put that inside of the laneway suite at the cost of some space, but also to not have an ugly 3-foot box on top of the laneway suite.
Thank you. Any questions? No questions? Okay, we're in committee. Discussion or a motion?
Through you, Madam Chair, although I've listened to the concerns of the residents and I'm very sympathetic to them, based on what we have in front of us, I don't feel that this is an unreasonable application. I suspect that the passing of the laneway bylaw happened after the garage approval took place, and that variance number 3 was previously approved for the setback, so they're staying within the context of the setback. I think that the height increase, I mean, it's modest, and the fact that it's just for the skylight, it's not for the entire roof, makes it, in my opinion, even more minor. So I think as a whole, it's not an unreasonable application. Like it or not, the city has approved the laneway houses. And if we compare this to one that we had earlier today, where we were looking at much greater variances for height, I do believe that this fits within what the city's looking for. So I'm comfortable moving approval of this application.
I reiterate that this, to me, is what we are looking for in a laneway house. It's not perfectly compliant, but that, to me, in this case, reflects the fact that it is a partially existing structure. As far as the soft landscaping, it's a slightly improved condition over what was approved for the garage alone. Functionally, it's the same. The setbacks reflect that it is not a wholly new structure, and the height is so minor, I really don't see an issue.
I agree.
So if that was a motion, I'll second it.
Okay, so I would move the motion to approve, as I feel it meets the 4 tests and fits within the context of the neighborhood, including the engineering report that has conditions, and that's the November 19th, 2018 report. Okay?
Yes.
So that's a motion by Ms. Oman, seconded by Mr. Carlson for approval of the application, including the engineering conditions. All in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you.
Item 18, 41 to 45 Spadina Road.
Sorry, I've been pretty good, but
Oh, that's good.
I missed a
Thank you.
couple.
No, you can- Copy of,
Thanks.
copy of a plan that the committee has before it. So is 41 to 45 Spadina Road ready?
Take the other one then.
Okay. That's fine. 129 Campbell Avenue. Where's Spadina Road? Where'd Spadina Road go? Yeah, they was.
Yeah, they were here.
Okay, so for number 19, 129 Campbell, the committee has before it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, correspondence and support from 127 Campbell, a correspondence and interest or concern from 131 Campbell Avenue. Could we please have your name and address?
Yep, my name is Christina Ott. I'm at 129. I'm the owner and designer at 129 Campbell.
Okay, please go ahead with your presentation.
Oh, okay. So I want to add an addition to the back of my house, which is somewhat fitting with the rest of the neighborhood. I have pictures of the back, and I believe my neighbor, Whitney, approves it. She just would like to have some privacy screening added to the rear deck and upper balcony.
All right. Okay, do you have any questions of the applicant at this time?
No.
Okay.
I don't have any questions. I don't know if your neighbor, do you need a full presentation, or you just want to say what you have to say?
Say what you need to say,
Yeah.
okay? Okay.
So yeah, just,
Name and address?
sorry, Whitney Miller, 131 Campbell Avenue. I'm the owner directly to the north
Okay.
of the proponent. So you received my email, the committee has email. My deck at the back is very low, which is why I'm asking for privacy screening on the first floor as well, because there's going to be a walkout there. On the porch, it's going to be a little higher than you might imagine, and I just have a deck on cinder blocks, so that's why I'm asking for the 5-foot privacy screening on the north side of that. And then, of course, the second story one, that's really high up, and so bird's eye view, so that's why I'm asking for 6 feet there. Because the setback is less than, the setback is very small for inevitably in the course of excavation and construction of the property, the fencing is going to be affected. I know that's not your normal line of work, but it would be great if the committee could also require that the reconstruction of that fencing, if it were to be affected, would be subject to my approval and at the cost of the applicant.
That's not something that the committee could impose as a condition. That would have to be something that the two of you.
Okay, well, if you could reflect in your notes that that was asked for and that the owner consented to that, that would be helpful.
Maybe you can
I think you may
write an agreement and
before
sign
you
it.
leave today. You may be able to agree amongst yourselves and put something in writing, but it's not something that the committee can attach to decisions.
Yeah, I think we have that in writing already by email. Christina and I corresponded, and she responded that she was in agreement with those 3 items.
Then you would have to rely on that. Now, do you have any concerns with the variances being requested?
Initially, so it looks like you can just confirm from me, her 2-story, the new structure is flush with mine. Is that correct? Just because it's flush with my current.
Will it be the back, she's going back?
Yeah, it does, except the deck extends.
Except for the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the drawings that we have before us?
Yes.
That would appear to be the case.
That is flush. So in that case, I mean, yeah, what are you going to do?
Your neighbor.
I mean, it is, I did do the calculation, it is about 20% over what the allotment is, but I think that this committee would probably approve it, given that it doesn't extend beyond my structure. There's a small, I have the difference is that mine is set back from the property line, and hers will not be. It'll be on the property line, so that's the difference. Of course, it's going to affect, that's the southeastern exposure of my house. It is going to affect the light that comes into my place. All the northern side is attached, so obviously that blocks all of there's no windows on that side, so my kitchen window, my bedroom window, my daughter's bedroom window, the guest room, sorry, not mine, is the master, but all of those things are going to be affected in terms of light. But I just, because it's flush with mine and there are other constructions on the street, I just thought that the committee probably wouldn't, and she hasn't put any windows in the proposed addition, so there's not really privacy concerns beyond the porches.
As you probably noted when you were reviewing the notice, there are no variances required for length or depth of the structure.
Right, it's just the floor area.
Yeah, which
yeah.
It's okay.
Or setback.
So yeah, great. It would have been great if it was set back like mine, but it's not. And I just, from consulting with people, it would be unlikely that would. I didn't bring it up because I thought you guys wouldn't agree.
Well, there's no variance 1.4 setback anyway. So is there?
Well, there is a small one for the stairs.
For the stairs,
But it was just the floor area, of course, impacts. I mean, if you don't approve the floor area, then she would be required to probably set it back in order to reduce the floor area, and that would improve the lighting into my house. But, you know.
But you're okay with the condition for the screening on the decks?
Yep. Yep.
This is your opportunity to have whatever comment you wish to.
Well, if the committee, it affects my light. It affects my light a lot because of the exposure of my house and her house. If the committee feels that that is, reason, I mean, you're the decision makers. If that is a reason not to approve this variance, it's, then I'll leave that to you. I mean, you guys do this all the time, so you know what's sort of acceptable and what's not acceptable. It is, like I say, it is over the floor area, and I did do that calculation, but I do notice it is flush with the back of my house. It doesn't extend beyond, apart from those decks, which I think are clear, no, or something? And there's no roof on the second floor deck. Initially, I thought there was, which would kind of extend the construction, even though I know that they're not calculated in the floor service area, or the FSI, whatever you call it.
Floor space index.
Floor space index. If it had a roof on it, then I would have been more concerned because the overall feeling of the construction is increased. But what I've been told, there's a small overhang, but there's no roof on the second floor balcony, or whatever you want to call it. Okay.
Any questions, panel members? No? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
We hear back from, yes, please respond to any comments that have been made. And
Well, I totally appreciate Whitney's concerns, but there's precedence in the entire neighborhood to have that setback. And I mean, so her light will be affected, but the space in my house will also be affected. I have to set it back. And there's 0.84 seems to be pretty reasonable increase to the GFA based on other houses in the neighborhood.
do you have any examples?
I do.
Would you like to? No, about the floor space index.
I'm going to show you some pictures.
If you have the addresses, that's.
Well, Whitney's neighbor at 133, they're back. They must have come to a committee for their.
But you don't have examples,
You don't have any
right?
examples of actual floor space
Actual
index?
numbers?
I don't. There's a setback. They're not extended. Sorry, the extension to the
Okay.
north is a deck. It's not
Yeah.
It's not part of the.
Okay, sure. I'll just show you what the backs of our.
Okay, yeah, we were just looking for examples of floor space index at what you're requesting.
Oh, okay. I don't
Okay.
know actual numbers, but if you can see, this is my house right now. This is Whitney's house, and this is Whitney's neighbor's house.
All right, thank you.
Going back.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, committee members? No? Okay, so we're in committee now? Discussion or motion?
I mean, I think that this is appropriate is fairly clear. The only question really to me is whether this privacy screening condition is closely enough related to any of the variances.
Well, it could be linked to like the increase in FSI has caused the.
What do you mean
Yeah.
with privacy?
Yeah, for the decks. I think it's something, it's still the entire plan, like all the plans are part of it, so I think you can link it. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Russell? You have any?
Yeah.
No, I think we never got to the privacy screening for
But it-
for the first floor and second floor as conditions. And so basically, to approve the application,
I was just gonna say it should be like the 1.5 meters, right? Because she's asking for
1.5 is
5 and
max
6.
floor on the first floor and 1.8 on the second, which
But aren't there bylaws governing the heights of screening? And I don't remember the numbers. I would stick with 1.5.
No, but
It's minor, you don't need a minor.
No, but there are bylaws for it, so I would stick with 1.5.
I would tend to agree. It would be safer to stick
Yeah.
with the standard on both, which is a little shorter on the second floor, but also makes them the same.
Mhm.
So in that case, I would move approval of the application, including a condition that 1.5 meter privacy screening be required on the north side of the first and second floor decks, which do you want plan numbers? You're asking? Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, so a motion by Mr. Carlson, seconded by Ms. Omen for approval of the application with the condition that there be a 1.5 meter privacy screening on the north side of the first and second floor decks. All in favor? Your application's approved on that condition. 41 to 45 Spadina, are we here? Are the people in opposition still present? Could you please sit to your left, please? Thank you. The committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan.
Next one.
Site plan, floor plans and elevations, covering letter from Nixon Chan, the agent, parking review study from Nixon Chan, email correspondence from Development Coordinator, Traffic Planning, Transportation Services, Toronto and East York District, and correspondence in opposition from Patrick Duffy, solicitor on behalf of Milden Hall Group Incorporated of 39 Spadina Road. Could we have your name, please?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of committee. My name is Kate Cooper. I'm a land use planner with Bousfields Incorporated. I'm here representing the landowner on 41 to 45 Spadina. As you can see, the site is located at the southeast corner of Spadina and Lowther Avenue. It's a rectangular site in size with approximately 43 meters of frontage on Spadina and 40 meters of frontage on Lowther. It's currently occupied by an existing 4-story U-shaped rental residential building with 8 rental units per floor for a total of 24 existing rental residential units. The building was constructed around 1906 and it has been listed on the city's Heritage Registry in August of 1979. In early 2018, my client purchased the property and has since been working to bring it up to code from a fire department standpoint. And additionally, my client has been seeking to legalize 6 of the rental units in the basement when they found out those were unlawfully existing rental units that have existed since before the 1980s. They were deemed to be not legal by the city, and we've sat down and met with city planning to discuss the legalization of these units and the existing parking spaces along the eastern property boundary. So the required variances do represent an opportunity to legalize this existing building. There are no exterior site alterations proposed whatsoever. The rental units are existing and occupied. They will continue to operate as is, as well as the 6 parking spaces along the eastern property boundary that have existed for many decades. The variances deal with density, amenity area, and parking. They represent variances to both the former City of Toronto Bylaw 43886 as well as Bylaw 569-2013. And all of the variances are as a result of the legalization of the 6 rental apartment units in the basement and the associated parking along the eastern property boundary. So it is my opinion that the variances, both individually and cumulatively, meet the 4 tests under Section 45(1) of the Planning Act. We have read all of the correspondence that has been submitted on this application. We've had some extensive discussion this morning with Ms. Oxenberg, who's with Stikeman Elliott's office, with respect to the landowner to the south, who has concerns regarding an existing easement on title that runs along the eastern side of the site. Unfortunately, both Ms. Oxenberg's client and parties that are privy to our site are out of the country, and we just have simply run out of time to come up with an agreement that satisfies the landowner to the south to protect the rights to this easement. But it is my opinion that the property ownership is not a land use planning matter, and that these items can be dealt with outside of the Committee of Adjustment forum. So I'd like to proceed with the variances today and respectfully request that the committee consider approval of the variances requested.
Was one of the concerns that one of the parking spaces is actually in the right-of-way?
The site plan that we submitted,
So would that discussion then impact?
that actually wasn't one of their concerns. There are 7 parking spaces existing along that property boundary, but one of them does encroach into the city's right-of-way. That space is not part of this application, and I will show you the plan that Mr. Nixon Chan from Lee Consulting prepared that shows the 6 spaces in question that we're looking to legalize from a zoning standpoint. Outdated, show another parking space to the immediate north of parking space number 6, half of which encroached into the city's right-of-way on Lowther Avenue. That parking space is not part of this application. We are not seeking to legalize that parking space. As we understand, it does encroach into the city's right-of-way. The parking spaces that we're seeking to legalize are the 6 parking spaces shown there. Lee Consulting has done a review of the survey, dimensioned the parking spaces as well as the drive aisle, and has also carried out an exercise to look at the maneuverability of this access and right-of-way that has existed for many years and operated. They've concluded that there are no issues. It could continue to operate as it has for many decades.
I just need some clarification. So you say there are 2 parking spaces, and one of them is in the city, in the right-of-way. Which one is it talking? Top one?
On the site plan, tricky to see because it's quite an old plan. There are parking spaces along the eastern property boundary, and this space number 7 actually encroaches into the city's right-of-way. That's the space that they're talking about. What our transportation consultant did is they went out to the site and they surveyed the parking spaces, which are delineated with paint. They're painted spaces on the site. They dimensioned them according to what is existing today, and those are the variances we are asking for. There was a parking space to the immediate north of the 6 spaces that they surveyed that was partially within the city's right-of-way, so we're not including that as part of this application because it's not a legal space. It's not part of this, no.
Thank you. The other party, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Kelly Oxenberg. I'm with Stikeman Elliott. Patrick Duffy could not appear here today. So my client is the Milden Hall Group. So they own 39 Spadina Road, and that is the property immediately to the south of the subject property. And my client operates a Montessori school in this building. My client has an easement over the right-of-way in question where the cars are to be parked. And as Ms. Cooper mentioned, yes, easement rights and right-of-ways, they're a civil matter and they're not generally within the purview of the Committee of Adjustment. However, this isn't just a civil matter or a contractual dispute. The applicant is trying to justify several parking variances in an inappropriate matter because the subject property does not have a legal right to locate the parking spaces in the right-of-way. So the granting of these variances are dependent upon the use of the subject lands in a way that's not permitted. It would be like seeking variances, parking variances or justify your parking count by parking, let's say, in a public right-of-way or a city boulevard. I don't see the Committee of Adjustment approving that. So I don't see the difference between my client saying it's inappropriate for the parking variances to be justified through a parking on a right-of-way that is a subject of an easement versus saying, okay, I'm proposing 6 parking spaces and those cars are to be parked in a lay-by on a city street. So as Ms. Cooper had mentioned, my client had been in discussions with the applicant. These are obviously serious concerns to my client, not just because, you know, from a property owner standpoint, but because they also operate a Montessori school. They use these parking spaces, or they use this lane as part of their fire protection plan, and the lane is used by the school for various purposes. So I think it's inappropriate to approve this application today for all the reasons that I touched upon, and also because I think that possibly we could reach a settlement with the applicant. We just simply ran out of time. So if the committee is inclined or not sure about approving the application today, I would think that a deferral would be appropriate as well. My client is speaking about 6 parking spaces. 4 parking spaces, yes, according to the bylaw, 4 parking spaces are permitted, but those 4 parking spaces would still be in a right-of-way over which my client has easement rights over.
So those parking spaces are currently used as parking spaces.
To clarify that, my client had entered into a private agreement with the previous owner of the property for that owner's tenants to park in those parking spaces. That was a private arrangement between my client and the previous owner.
Formal variance.
Exactly. And the agreement was set out such that whatever rights were granted to the former owner of the property did not inure to the benefit of the next owner and their tenants.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our clients were in receipt of the agreement that Ms. Oxenberg is speaking of. We looked at it this morning, and it was an agreement between the owners of 39 Spadina and the previous property owner, but in my view, in reading of that agreement, it did not say anything about it not carrying over to the current owner of the subject site. And in addition to that, this easement, which the Montessori school has been using, is not changing. These parking spaces exist. In fact, it's our knowledge that some of the staff that work at the school actually use these parking spaces on a daily basis. The easement width is not changing. The easement is under title, and my client is required to maintain that easement unobstructed and clear clear and unobstructed for use by 41 to 45 Spadina, as well as by use of 39 Spadina Road, regardless of who owns which property. The easement is the agreement that 39 Spadina and 41 Spadina had previously is a contractual matter. It is not a matter for the Committee of Adjustment, in my opinion, and I believe that those issues can be worked out in a separate forum, and that it's my opinion that the variance just should be reviewed.
But you're asking the committee to approve parking variances on a property that is, there's a discussion about whether or not it's wholly within the control of your client.
The easement is located entirely on the property of my client. My client is maintaining that easement and has done so since their purchase of the property. The previous property owner also maintained that easement. The easement has operated without any issues to my knowledge, from its inception to today. The presence of the parking that exists today is not going to change. The easement will still be available for use by 39 Spadina Road, and our client is prepared to continue discussions with 39 Spadina Road regarding their title, and to that easement, we just simply ran out of time today.
I know you're a contractual obligation between both parties, and in my opinion, I respectfully submit that I believe that the contract spills over from one part to the next. Why are you here before us today then if there's easement and there's...
Well, we're here before you today because my client purchased the property last year, and as you are more aware than anybody, it takes a long time to go through a minor variance process to get onto an agenda in front of the committee. And they're eager to legalize the units which were suggested to us by the city planning department. They've gone ahead already and done interior alterations to the unit to bring it up to fire code, because when they purchased the property, the existing units were not up to code. When we met with city planning, they gave us full support to go ahead and legalize these units. And as a part of the legalization of these rental housing units that exist and contribute to the city's rental housing stock, these other variances fell out of the review that was done by the zoning examiner. So we're eager to proceed because right now we have tenants living in units that are not legal.
You're asking the 6 parking spaces and be dealt with for 24 unit apartment. You know what? I would ask the committee if we should simply just give you 3 months to come back and resolve it. We are not, you know, we're 6 for a 9 with a contractual relationship.
I will leave that in the hands.
My fellow member is suggesting a deferral might be appropriate. I think that's what he's
3 months.
thinking.
You got 3 months. I would ask the committee.
I'm leaving that into the hands of the committee. We would rather the committee look at the variances and the land use matters you have before you and look to approve the variances. But if it is the decision of the committee to defer it, then we will.
Or, you know, 3 months, or if you can talk to the staff to come back sooner.
That would be ideal. Yes, the sooner the better.
Can you do anything? 3 months.
Can I ask what the soonest date would be to come back to the committee?
Is the easement registered on title? Or
The easement is registered on title, yes.
Okay, so the easement's registered on title, so I'm not a lawyer, but...
I'm still not seeing the relevance.
Well, exactly, but it's not relevant to the planning. I agree, but if it's on title, it usually moves with the change of title.
That really is the legal issue. That's not what's... If we're in committee...
Any other questions? The person?
No,
Okay. We're in committee then?
Variances, no.
If we're in committee, the issue before us is 6 parking spaces that physically exist on the property. Bearing in mind that the variance is for an increase in the number, really, the usability of these parking spaces in a contractual sense is completely irrelevant.
Well, I agree. What's before us is to legalize apartment units, and the laneway as it exists is going to remain the same.
Well, physical size of because there's more units being, more spaces being permitted or requested, the size of the spaces are smaller.
Yes, more spaces are requested than are permitted.
Yes. Yeah.
But they're also existing, so the size of the spaces is existing as well. Everything.
Is there a sign? Yeah, there.
Yeah, the last one, number 4.
But, I mean...
Size variance.
Will it infringe on the other side? You know?
But
we're not...
We're
not saying anything about the contractual relationship. We are...
No, without that, the easement with the grant of parking space infringe on the easement regulations.
Well, I I don't know, but that's not up to us to figure out. That's, if there's an easement on title, like when you buy a property, generally speaking, the easement transfers. We're looking at the actual property owner trying to legalize units and what's existing on the site since he or she bought the property. So we're looking at very specific variances.
The variance has no impact on the contract or the easement. They are entire, this is, the planning issue is the physical condition of the site.
It's this property owner is the one granting the privilege to the other of utilizing his or her property. But again, it's between them.
Well, but if that doesn't work out, whether or not you authorize there can be six, they have to meet the requirements. And if the private agreement doesn't provide for that, then they can't exist, despite what, whether or not you.
Yeah, this is a permission to create
This
parking
is
space.
permission for them to exist,
Yes.
but who uses them is.
Yeah, like ultimately, if there was a, like, it would be the property owner who would have to apply for a variance. Were there an easement for a neighbor to have parking spaces? It would still be this property that has to apply for it. I mean, these really are.
I agree.
Okay.
I mean,
Madam Chair, having heard that, I am going to move a motion for approval of the 6 basement units, 6 parking spaces. They're well within the plan now. The parties themselves have, they were colleagues in
I'll second that, noting that with regard to the residential units themselves, this is a long-standing condition that we've heard nothing with regard to issues with, and that is entirely suitable to the nature of that street.
well, and again, we've heard nothing regarding what's being asked for, right? Because it's all existing. We haven't heard any objections at all.
No, so we just approve what's existing there.
Yeah, okay.
And the parties go according to the construction
Yep.
problem.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's that was a formal motion by yourself.
Yeah.
So motion by Mr. Russell, seconded by Mr. Carlson for approval of the application. All in favor? Application's approved.
Thank you very much.
So that's everybody for this morning. So the morning session is adjourned at 12:30.